Aram Malik was 35 years old, a man known in his small town for his sharp tongue and restless ambition. He had always been the one who wanted more money, more recognition, more control. But now, standing in the dimly lit lawyer's office, he was confronted with a decision that would test not only his greed but his very humanity. The lawyer had just unfolded the official document, his late father's will. Everything Aram had expected, everything he had dreamed of, rested on those few pages. But when he heard that the inheritance was to be divided equally between him and his younger sister, Zara, something dark flared inside him. Should he accept his father's final words with humility, or fight to claim it all for himself? Could Zara, the gentle sister who had sacrificed so much, possibly stand in his way? And what hidden truth did she carry that could change everything? The sunlight streamed through the half-closed blinds of Advocate Nadim's office, scattering long shadows across the wooden desk. The air smelled faintly of paper, ink, and something older, dust mixed with grief. The room was silent except for the ticking of a brass clock on the wall. Zara Malik sat quietly in the corner, her dupatta drawn neatly over her head, her eyes lowered. She was 32, soft-spoken and resilient, the kind of woman who had lived her life carrying burdens no one else noticed. She had cared for their ailing father until his last breath, had managed the household when Aram was away chasing business deals in the city, and had done it all without complaint. But today, her hands trembled on her lap. Aram, on the other hand, leaned back in his chair with an air of entitlement. His suit was freshly pressed, his wristwatch gleamed under the light, and his expression betrayed impatience rather than grief. To him, this meeting was not about loss. It was about gain. Mr. Aram, Ms. Zara, Advocate Nadim said in a grave tone, adjusting his spectacles as he unfolded the official document. Your father left behind a very clear will. He wished for both of you to be present when it was read. May his soul rest in peace. Amin, Zara whispered softly, her voice catching in her throat. Aram only nodded curtly. The lawyer began reading, his voice calm but deliberate. The words floated heavily in the room. Their father had divided his estate, the house they grew up in, the farmland on the outskirts of town, and a modest bank account equally between the two siblings. When the final line was spoken, both my children shall inherit in equal measure, Zara's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. She whispered, Abu was fair, just like always. But Aram's jaw tightened. His fingers curled against the armrest of his chair. Equal? After everything? He had been the one making business decisions, meeting clients, expanding the family's name. How could his father not recognize his efforts? How could he treat Zara, the sister who had stayed hidden in the background, the caretaker, the quiet one, the same as him? Equal share? Aram's voice broke the silence, sharp as a blade. Is this some kind of joke, Advocate Sahib? The lawyer glanced at him with caution. No, Mr. Aram. This is your father's final word. He was very clear about his wishes. Zara looked up at her brother, her eyes widening with both hurt and fear. Bye. Abu loved us both. He wanted us to share. Aram stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Share? Zara, you don't understand business. You don't understand property, accounts, or responsibility. What will you even do with your share? You'll just waste it. No, this is not acceptable. The lawyer frowned, placing the will back on the desk. Mr. Aram, the law will uphold this distribution. If you challenge it, it will be a long and messy process. Aram's eyes flashed with defiance. Then so be it. Zara's heart sank. She had known her brother was ambitious, even selfish at times, but never had she imagined he would openly reject their father's dying wish. She folded her hands together, whispering almost to herself, Ya Allah, give me strength. The scene shifted later that evening. The Malik house stood quiet under the golden hue of sunset. The walls, though old, carried memories of laughter, arguments, late-night tea, their father's steady voice echoing through every corner. Zara walked slowly into her father's room, which still smelled faintly of his cologne. She touched the wooden rosary beads lying on the side table, her chest tightening with grief. Behind her, footsteps echoed. Aram entered, his face hard with determination. Zara, he said, his voice low but firm, I'll make this simple. Sign your share over to me. I'll take care of everything. You don't need to trouble yourself with land and money. I'll even give you a monthly allowance. That should be enough for you. Zara turned, disbelief written across her face. Allowance? This isn't charity. It's our father's inheritance. Abu wanted us both to have it. Abu was old, Aram snapped. He didn't know what he was doing at the end. I'm the one who can make this family's name bigger, stronger. You don't need this burden. Her eyes glistened with tears, but there was a quiet strength in her voice. It's not a burden, It's my right. For the first time, Aram's mask of composure cracked. His voice rose with anger. Right? Zara, you've lived in this house all your life. You don't understand the real world. You don't deserve an equal share. The words hit Zara like a physical blow. She stumbled back slightly, her hand gripping the edge of the bed for support. Her brother's greed was no longer hidden, it was laid bare. I won't sign anything, she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. Aram's jaw clenched. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. You'll regret this. That night, as Zara lay awake in her room, the weight of everything pressed down on her. She had always respected her brother, always obeyed him, even when he dismissed her sacrifices. But now she was forced to stand against him. Her heart pounded with fear. And yet, deep inside, she carried something her brother didn't know. Something her father had told her in his final days, a truth he had begged her to keep safe until the right time. Her fingers brushed against the drawer beside her bed, where an old envelope lay hidden, sealed with her father's handwriting. Inside was a secret that could shatter Aram's arrogance and change the course of everything. Zara closed her eyes, a single tear slipping down her cheek. She whispered, Abu, I promised you. But when the time comes, he will know. The next morning, Aram made his move. He called a family gathering, uncles, aunts, and cousins all summoned to the house. His plan was simple: pressure Zara publicly, shame her into giving up her claim. The living room filled with murmurs as relatives sat in a circle. Some offered sympathetic glances toward Zara, others avoided her eyes, unwilling to get involved. Aram stood tall in the center, his voice booming. Everyone here knows how much I've done for this family, he declared. I've worked day and night to carry my father's legacy forward. But now, because of this so-called equal share, all of that is at risk. My sister doesn't understand. She refuses to sign over her part. Tell me, does that sound fair to anyone here? A ripple of unease spread through the room. Some nodded reluctantly, others kept silent. Zara, sitting quietly at the edge of the room, felt the weight of 100 eyes on her. Her hands trembled, but she lifted her chin. Before she could speak, their Aunt Khadija leaned forward. Beta, listen to your brother. He knows better. You're a woman, what will you do with land and property? These matters are not for you. Her words cut deep, but Zara found her voice. Fapo, with respect, Abu never thought like that. He raised me with dignity, not as someone lesser. He wanted me to stand on my own feet. Aram's face reddened with anger. You see? She's being stubborn. She'll ruin everything. Zara's heart raced, but she knew she couldn't back down. The envelope in her drawer echoed in her mind. Her father's words came back to her, when the time is right, the truth will protect you. She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. The time wasn't now. Not yet. Instead, she looked around the room, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I won't give up my share. Not for anyone. Abu's will is final. The room fell silent. Every relative stared at her in shock. Never before had Zara spoken so firmly. Aram's fists clenched at his sides, his fury barely contained. He forced a smile, but his eyes burned with rage. Very well, he said slowly. If you won't listen to reason, then prepare yourself, Zara. I'll make sure you regret this decision. Zara's heart pounded, but she didn't flinch. What Aram didn't know was that his sister's quiet defiance was only the beginning. The secret she carried would not only protect her, it would turn his world upside down. And soon, very soon, the truth would come to light. The morning air was heavy with tension inside the Malik house. The once warm and welcoming home now carried whispers of division, echoing in its very walls. Zara moved quietly through the kitchen, preparing tea as she had done for years, but her hands shook slightly with every movement. The gathering from the previous night had left her drained. She had stood up against her brother in front of the entire family, and though her words were firm, the storm she saw in Aram's eyes still haunted her. She poured tea into a cup, the steam rising, and whispered to herself, "Abu, give me strength. I cannot fight him alone." In the living room, Aram paced back and forth, his mind racing. He had spent the night scheming, tossing and turning, unable to rest. To him, Zara's defiance wasn't just stubbornness, it was humiliation. How dare she stand against him in front of relatives? How dare she cling to something she could never manage? He stopped by the window, staring out at the street below where children played cricket, their laughter piercing his thoughts. A bitter taste filled his mouth. If she won't listen to reason, I'll use force. If she wants a war, then a war she'll get. Later that afternoon, Aram met with two of his closest friends at a cafe in the city, Sajid and Haroon, both men who shared his hunger for money and influence. They leaned across the table, their voices low but eager. "So she refused?" Sajid asked, sipping his tea with a smirk. "Yes," Aram replied coldly. "In front of everyone. She thinks she can challenge me." Haroon chuckled. "She's just your sister. Break her spirit, and she'll sign. Women can't fight long battles." Aram's lips curled into a thin smile. "That's exactly what I plan to do." Sajid leaned in closer. "How?" Aram tapped his fingers on the table, his eyes narrowing. "First, I'll make her life miserable. She has no husband, no children, no protector. She's alone. I'll use that. She won't stand a chance against pressure." The two men exchanged amused glances. Haroon asked, "And if she still doesn't bend?" Aram's gaze hardened, his voice a whisper. "Then I'll destroy her reputation. Once that's gone, she'll have no choice but to hand everything over." Back at home, Zara sat in her father's room again, holding the old envelope in her hands. She traced the faded edges with her fingers. She wanted to open it, to remind herself of the secret her father had entrusted her with. But she didn't. Not yet. The time wasn't right. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps. She quickly slipped the envelope back into the drawer just as Aram entered the room. "What are you doing in here?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. Zara steadied her voice. "I was just remembering Abu. This room feels empty without him." Aram's eyes flicked toward the drawer for a moment, but he said nothing. Instead, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Zara, this stubbornness of yours, it won't end well. You think you can fight me, but you can't. You'll only suffer." Her heart pounded, but she stood her ground. "I am not fighting you, I am respecting Abu's will. That's all." Aram smirked, his tone dripping with menace. "We'll see how long you can hold on." The days that followed grew darker for Zara. Aram began his campaign of cruelty quietly at first. He restricted her access to the household money, cutting off small allowances she used for groceries and daily needs. He spoke harshly in front of relatives, painting her as ungrateful and selfish. "She doesn't care about the family," he said one evening to their uncle Rashid. "She only cares about property and money. That's all she wants." Uncle Rashid, easily swayed, shook his head with disappointment. "Zara Beta, why are you making life difficult for your brother? He's only trying to take care of you." Zara felt her throat tighten with frustration. "Chachu, I only want what Abu left for me. Nothing more. Is that so wrong?" But her words fell on deaf ears. Slowly, the relatives who once supported her began to turn away, influenced by Aram's calculated lies.
One night, Zara was sitting alone on the veranda, watching the stars.
The silence around her was heavy, broken only by the chirping of crickets. She hugged her shawl tightly around her shoulders, whispering prayers under her breath. Suddenly, her phone buzzed.
It was an unknown number.
Hesitantly, she answered.
Hello?
A deep voice sneered from the other end.
So you think you're brave, standing against your brother?
Let's see how brave you are when the whole town whispers your name with shame.
Zara's breath caught. Who is this? But the caller only laughed before hanging up.
Her hands shook as she lowered the phone.
She knew this was Aram's doing. He had started spreading threats, testing her resolve.
She closed her eyes tightly, tears slipping down her cheeks.
Ya Allah, how much more can I bear? The next morning, the attacks grew bolder.
Word spread in the neighborhood that Zara had been demanding money from her brother. Some neighbors whispered cruelly as she walked by the market.
Others looked at her with pity.
The shame burned her, but she lifted her chin and walked on, her father's words echoing in her memory, "The truth will protect you."
Meanwhile, Aram sat in his office, satisfied.
His plan was working.
Slowly, he was isolating Zara. Soon, she would break.
But what he didn't realize was that Zara, though gentle and soft-spoken, carried a strength he had never seen before. And when pushed too far, that strength would reveal itself.
That evening, Zara's closest friend, Aisha, came to visit.
Aisha had known Zara since childhood, and she was one of the few who still stood by her side.
"Zara, you look exhausted," Aisha said gently, taking her hand. "What has Aram done now?"
Zara hesitated, her eyes welling with tears.
"He's turning everyone against me. He's threatening me. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe in this house anymore."
Aisha squeezed her hand firmly.
"Don't give up. You're stronger than you think.
And remember, truth always comes out. You have something your brother doesn't, a clean heart."
Zara smiled faintly, her voice breaking. "There's something I haven't told you, Aisha. Something Abu shared with me before he died."
Aisha leaned in, eyes wide.
"What is it?" Zara shook her head. "Not yet. But when the time comes, you'll understand."
Days turned into weeks, and Aram's schemes grew more vicious. He filed false paperwork, claiming Zara had no right to the farmland. He spread rumors in the community, hinting that she was mentally unstable, unfit to handle responsibilities.
Zara endured it all, clinging to her faith and her father's memory.
But the weight on her shoulders grew heavier with each passing day. One afternoon, after returning from the market, she found her room ransacked.
Clothes thrown on the floor, drawers pulled open, books scattered.
Her heart dropped as she rushed to the small wooden drawer where she kept the envelope. It was gone.
"No," she whispered, frantically searching the room. "Ya Allah, no."
Tears blurred her vision as she fell to her knees, her hands trembling. The envelope, her father's secret, her only protection, had vanished.
And she knew, deep down, exactly who had taken it. Aram.
That night, as Aram sat in his study with a satisfied smirk, he held the envelope in his hands. His fingers traced the seal, his curiosity burning. "What are you hiding, Zara?" he muttered under his breath.
"What secret did Abu give you?"
He carefully broke the seal, his eyes devouring the letter inside. But as he read the words, his smug expression slowly faded.
His hands shook.
His face drained of color. This can't be true," he whispered, his voice cracking. The secret inside the letter was far more devastating than he had ever imagined. It was something that could ruin him, not Zara. For the first time, fear gripped Aram Malik's heart. Aram sat frozen in his study, the dim glow of the desk lamp throwing sharp shadows across his face. His hands clutched the open letter, his chest heaving as if the words on the page had knocked the very breath out of him. The sound of the clock ticking on the wall grew louder, until it felt like a hammer striking inside his skull. This can't be true," he whispered again, his voice hoarse. The letter, written in their father's trembling handwriting, contained a revelation Aram never expected. It declared that not everything in the Malik family was as it seemed. It spoke of a hidden truth connected to Zara, something their father had kept from the world for decades. And if this truth ever came out, it would not only protect Zara's rights, it would destroy Aram's standing, his reputation, his very identity. He slammed the letter down on the desk, his face pale with rage and fear. His thoughts spiraled. If she reveals this, everything I've built, everything I've planned, it will be finished. Aram pressed his palms into his eyes, forcing himself to breathe. No. He couldn't let this happen. He couldn't let Zara use this secret against him. He had to silence her, one way or another. Meanwhile, Zara sat in her room, staring at the empty drawer where the envelope once lay. Her heart felt hollow, her body weak. She had lost the one piece of evidence her father entrusted her with. The secret was no longer safe, it was in Aram's hands now. Her mind replayed her father's final days, his weak voice whispering to her from his hospital bed. Zara. I have to tell you something. Something I kept hidden for too long. It will protect you when I'm gone. Promise me, Beta, you won't reveal it until you must. The truth will come like a shield, when you have no other choice. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, Abu, I promised. But what if he already knows? What if he uses it against me? The night stretched endlessly, Zara lying awake, the silence of the house broken only by the occasional creak of wood and distant barking of stray dogs. Fear clawed at her, but beneath it burned a small flame of determination. If Aram thinks this will break me, he doesn't know me at all. The next morning, Aram stormed into Zara's room without knocking. He held the letter in his hand, his face twisted with fury. So, he hissed, waving the paper, this was your little weapon? This filthy secret you thought you could use against me? Zara's heart dropped at the sight of the letter, but she forced her voice to remain steady. It wasn't a weapon, it was Abu's truth. He wanted me to keep it safe. Aram laughed bitterly, a sound filled with venom. Safe? Don't you see what this does to me? If people find out, I'll be ruined. Everything I've built will turn to dust. Zara's eyes filled with tears, but her voice didn't waver. Maybe this isn't about what you've built, Maybe it's about what Abu tried to hide, for your sake, for the family's sake. His hand trembled as he pointed at her. If you ever breathe a word of this to anyone, Zara, I swear, you'll regret it. Do you hear me? I will destroy you before I let that happen. She stared at him in silence, her heart aching. Don't destroy yourself trying to fight the truth. The truth doesn't die. For a moment, their eyes locked, his burning with rage, hers shimmering with sorrow. Then, with a growl of frustration, Aram stormed out, slamming the door so hard that the walls shook. Later that day, Zara confided in her friend Aisha. They sat together in the small garden behind the house, the scent of jasmine hanging in the air. Aisha, Zara whispered, her hands gripping her friend's tightly. He found the letter. He knows everything now. Aisha's eyes widened. Ya Allah, then what will you do? Zara shook her head, her voice trembling. I don't know. Abu told me to use the truth only when there was no other way. But now, I fear Aram will twist it, make it something ugly. He's already threatened me. Aisha leaned closer, her voice fierce with loyalty. Then you can't stay quiet forever, Zara. You have to fight. Not just for yourself, but for your father's name. Zara's eyes filled with tears as she nodded slowly. Deep inside, she knew her friend was right. The time was approaching when silence would no longer protect anyone. In the days that followed, Aram became more reckless. He started visiting influential relatives, whispering lies to discredit Zara. She's not in her right mind, he said to Uncle Rashid over dinner. Abu trusted me with everything. This talk of inheritance, it's poisoning her. He visited Aunt Khadija next, sighing dramatically as he spoke. She's imagining things now. Claiming Abu told her secrets. It's dangerous talk. We need to keep her under control. Bit by bit, he built a narrative where Zara was the unstable one, while he played the role of the responsible brother. And most relatives believed him.
But not everyone.
Some noticed the cracks in Aram's mask, the desperation in his eyes, the sharpness in his tone.
And slowly, questions began to stir. One evening, Aram confronted Zara again in the courtyard.
The fading sunlight cast long shadows across the ground. "Listen to me carefully," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "You will sign your share over to me. I don't care about this letter, about Abu's so-called secret. You'll hand over everything, or I'll make sure no one in this town respects you again."
Zara's hands trembled, but she lifted her chin. "No, I won't." His jaw tightened. "You think people will believe you? You think they'll side with you when I tell them what that letter says? When I twist it so you look like a liar?" Zara's heart pounded. He was right, he had the letter now. He could manipulate it, change the narrative. Unless she acted, the truth could be buried under his lies. But she remembered her father's words, "The truth will come like a shield when you have no other choice." She looked him straight in the eye and whispered, "Then maybe it's time I show everyone the truth myself." Aram's face darkened.
His voice dropped to a growl.
"Don't you dare." For the first time, Zara felt no fear. Only resolve.
That night, unable to sleep, Aram sat alone in his study, the letter lying before him. His hands shook as he read the words again and again. Each line cut deeper, each revelation gnawing at his insides. He thought of what people would say if they knew. He imagined the disgrace, the whispers, the downfall. "No," he muttered, his voice trembling.
"I can't let this happen. I won't let her ruin me." He picked up the letter, holding it close to the lamp flame. For a moment, he considered burning it, watching the truth turn to ash. But he stopped. If he destroyed it, he'd lose his leverage over Zara. No, he needed it. Needed it to control her, to silence her. But deep down, Aram knew control was slipping from his hands. The very next morning, Zara made a bold decision. She walked to the mosque after far prayer, where many elders of the community gathered. Standing before them, her voice steady though her hands shook, she said, "Uncles, aunties, I need you to hear me. My father left us both a will. He wanted me and my brother to share equally. But there is more, something my father entrusted me with before his death. A truth that Aram does not want anyone to know." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Murmurs filled the courtyard. Aram, who had followed her in, froze at the doorway, his face draining of color. "Stop, Zara," he barked, his voice echoing. "Don't you dare shame this family." But Zara stood tall, her eyes brimming with tears. "I am not shaming our family, I am honoring Abu's words. If you force me, I will reveal everything he told me. And once it is spoken, no one will see you the same way again." The crowd grew silent, all eyes darting between brother and sister. Aram's hands clenched into fists, his rage boiling over. He could feel the ground slipping beneath him, the truth threatening to break free. And for the first time, the mighty Aram Malik was afraid of his sister. The courtyard outside the mosque was tense, every pair of eyes fixed on Zara as her words hung in the morning air. Men with gray beards leaned forward, murmuring. Women clutching prayer beads glanced at one another, whispering. The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the sound of pigeons fluttering above. Zara's hands trembled at her sides, but her voice carried steady, "I am my father's daughter. He entrusted me with a truth before he passed away. If I must, I will speak it, but I pray my brother finds it in his heart to honor Abu's will before it comes to that." From the doorway, Aram's face twisted in fury. He had never imagined Zara would confront him here, in front of the elders, the people whose respect he depended on. "Enough!" Aram roared, stepping forward. Zara is confused. She is grieving, and grief has clouded her mind. She talks of secrets that don't exist, stories her imagination has created. "My father trusted me, not her." But the words sounded hollow, even to him. He could see the doubt forming in the elders' eyes. He could feel the community beginning to slip away from his control. Imam Said, the respected religious leader, raised a hand for silence.
His voice was calm, but carried weight.
Aram Beta, your father was a man of dignity. We all knew him well. He was just, fair.
If your sister says he entrusted her with something, we cannot dismiss it so easily.
Murmurs spread through the crowd again.
Aram's jaw tightened, his pulse racing.
Zara lowered her gaze humbly.
I do not wish to fight my brother in front of you all. I only wish for what my father wrote in his will, an equal share, nothing more. But if Aram continues to threaten me, then I will reveal what my father told me, even if it breaks my heart to do so. Her words struck deep, their quiet strength more powerful than any loud accusation.
By the time the gathering dispersed, the town was buzzing. Whispers traveled from street to street, tea shop to tea shop. Did you hear? Malik Sahib's daughter claims there is a secret. Aram looked nervous, didn't he? Like he was hiding something. Maybe the girl is telling the truth. She was always quiet, never one to lie.
The tide of opinion was shifting.
And Aram knew it.
Back at home, he stormed into his study, slamming the door so hard that a photo frame rattled and fell. His hands gripped his hair as he paced like a trapped animal. They're turning against me, he muttered through clenched teeth. All because of her. That cursed letter, those cursed words.
Sajid and Haroon, who had been waiting for him, exchanged uneasy glances.
Aram, calm down, Sajid said cautiously.
It's just talk. People forget quickly. Forget?
Aram snapped, his eyes blazing.
Do you understand what happens if she speaks the truth? Do you know what this secret means? Haroon leaned forward, curiosity gleaming. Then tell us, Aram. What is the secret your father wrote?
For a moment, Aram froze, the letter heavy in his pocket. His instincts screamed not to reveal it, not even to his closest friends. Because once it slipped from his lips, the shame would be real, undeniable.
Instead, he growled, you don't need to know. Just understand this, if Zara opens her mouth, my life is over.
That evening, Zara sat quietly in her room, her prayer mat spread before her. Tears wet her cheeks as she raised her hands in dua.
Ya Allah, I never wanted this fight. I never wanted to stand against my brother. But he has left me no choice. Give me patience. Give me strength. And guide me to do what is right.
Her words were barely whispers, but they carried the weight of her heart. When she rose from prayer, she found her Aunt Khadija standing at the door, her arms crossed.
Zara, Khadija said sharply, what madness are you spreading in the town? Secrets? Wills? You are ruining your family's honor.
Zara's heart sank, but she stood her ground.
Fapo, I am not spreading madness. I am protecting Abu's truth. Why is it so hard to accept that a daughter can be trusted too? Khadija's eyes narrowed. Because men carry families forward, not women. You're only making enemies by standing against your brother.
Zara's eyes filled, but she replied firmly, if telling the truth makes me an enemy, then so be it.
Abu raised me to stand with honesty, not fear. Khadija left in a huff, muttering under her breath. But Zara knew her words would only spread more gossip by morning.
The next day, Aram tried a different tactic. He visited influential elders privately, one by one, showering them with polite smiles and gifts. She is confused, he told them, his voice dripping with false sorrow.
Zara has always been fragile.
Losing our father has made her unstable. Please, don't take her words seriously. For the sake of our family's honor, help me calm her.
Some elders nodded, sympathizing with him. But others hesitated, remembering the conviction in Zara's voice at the mosque. That hesitation ate at Aram.
No matter how hard he tried, the shadow of his father's letter loomed over him.
Days passed, and the tension only grew.
In the marketplace, people whispered when Zara walked by. Some smiled at her with quiet respect, while others eyed her suspiciously, repeating Aram's claims. One evening, as she bought vegetables, a woman approached her.
Zara Beatty, don't let anyone silence you. Your father was a good man.
If he trusted you, then you must honor his trust.
Speak when the time is right.
The words warmed Zara's heart.
She wasn't alone.
Even in the shadows, there were people who believed her.
But Aram grew more desperate.
One night, he gathered Sajid and Harun again, his eyes bloodshot, his voice shaking with rage.
She's making a fool of me. The town is starting to question me. I can't let her win. Do you understand? I'll do whatever it takes. Sajid frowned. What do you mean, whatever it takes?
Aram leaned forward, his voice dropping to a sinister whisper.
If she doesn't stop, I'll destroy her completely. Reputation, dignity, everything.
I'll spread such rumors that no one will look at her again without shame. Harun hesitated, shifting uncomfortably.
Aram, she's your sister. There are limits.
But Aram's eyes burned.
No. She chose to stand against me. Now she'll pay the price. That same night, Zara was jolted awake by a loud thud at her window.
Her heart pounded as she rushed to see. On the ground outside lay a small brick, wrapped in paper.
With trembling hands, she picked it up and unwrapped the note. Scrawled in crude handwriting were the words, "Stay silent, or we'll silence you forever."
Her breath caught, fear gripping her chest. She clutched the paper to her heart, tears spilling down her cheeks. For the first time, she realized Aram was willing to go to any lengths, even violence, to protect himself. But she also knew something else: the time for silence was running out.
The next morning, Zara went to visit Imam Said privately.
Sitting in the quiet of his study, she finally broke her silence.
"Imam Sahib," she whispered, tears glistening, "my father told me something before he died. Something about Aram.
I have kept it hidden, as he asked.
But now, Aram is threatening me. I don't know what to do." Imam Said leaned forward gently.
"Bedi, sometimes silence protects, but sometimes it becomes a weapon against you.
If this truth is as important as you say, then you cannot bury it forever. Trust that Allah's justice is greater than fear." Zara nodded slowly, her heart heavy. She knew the time was near.
That evening, as the sun set, the town gathered again at the mosque for a community meeting. Tensions had grown too sharp, and the elders wanted resolution.
Aram arrived dressed impeccably, his smile forced but confident.
He planned to end this tonight, to crush Zara's defiance once and for all.
Zara walked in quietly, her dupatta drawn, her steps firm.
Aisha walked beside her, offering silent strength.
As the meeting began, voices clashed.
Some sided with Aram, insisting Zara was causing unnecessary conflict. Others defended Zara, saying a daughter's words could not be dismissed so easily. Finally, Imam Said raised his hand.
"Enough. Tonight, we will hear both sides clearly. Zara Bedi, if you claim your father entrusted you with the truth, now is the time to reveal it.
The community cannot live in rumor and suspicion."
All eyes turned to her. The room grew silent.
Zara's heart pounded as she rose to her feet. She looked at Aram, whose smile had vanished, replaced by sheer panic. Her voice trembled, but grew stronger with each word.
"Yes. I will tell you. I will reveal what my father told me on his deathbed." Gasps rippled through the room.
Aram's fists clenched at his sides, sweat beading on his forehead.
And with the whole town watching, Zara opened her mouth to speak the secret that could destroy everything Aram had fought to protect.
The mosque hall was so silent that the faint creak of the wooden ceiling fan echoed like thunder.
Dozens of eyes fixed on Zara, their breath caught in collective anticipation.
Even the children sitting at the back sensed the gravity of the moment, their usual restlessness stilled.
Zara's hands trembled slightly as she pressed them together, drawing courage from within.
She looked at Imam Said, who gave her a firm but gentle nod, a silent reminder that truth spoken with sincerity carried its own strength. Then, she lifted her chin and let her voice cut through the silence.
"On the night before my father passed away," she began, "he called me into his room.
His breathing was heavy, and his hands were weak. But his mind was clear, sharper than ever. He looked at me and said, 'Zara, I entrust you with a burden I cannot carry into the grave without sharing. One day you may have to speak it.
Gasps rippled through the listeners. Aram shifted uneasily, his face paling.
Zara's voice quivered, but she forced herself onward. He told me that not all the wealth in our house belongs to us.
Some of it is not ours at all.
The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. The words were heavier than she expected, even speaking them aloud felt like breaking a sacred silence. Imam Saeed raised his hand for quiet.
Go on, Beatty. What did your father mean? Zara closed her eyes briefly, the memory flooding back.
She saw her father lying weak, clutching her hand, whispering as though afraid the walls themselves would overhear. He said that years ago, when his business was struggling, he took a large amount of money from a partner, a man who trusted him. That man died before it could be returned. Instead of giving it back to the family, Abu, he kept it. He invested it, built on it, and much of what we have today came from that.
Abu wept when he told me this.
He said the guilt never left his soul.
The room fell into stunned silence. Zara's eyes filled with tears. Abu said he was ashamed. He told me that Aram knew the truth.
That Aram was supposed to repay the partner's family, but he refused. Instead, he hid the truth, buried the papers, and claimed everything as ours.
Abu begged me, if Aram would not correct it, then I must.
Her words struck like a storm.
Men stood, speaking all at once. Astaghfirullah. How can this be? Is this true? Aram's face turned crimson.
He shot to his feet, his voice breaking through the chaos.
Lies. Every word is a lie. He jabbed a finger toward his sister. She twists the memory of our dying father to poison me.
She wants to destroy my name, take what's mine, and shame our family.
Don't believe her.
But his eyes betrayed him, they darted nervously, his jaw clenched too tightly.
Imam Saeed's gaze was piercing. Aram, these are grave accusations. If what your sister says is false, then prove it. Bring forth the papers, the accounts, anything that clears your name. I don't have to prove anything.
Aram barked, but his voice cracked. The community wasn't convinced. They looked at him with suspicion, their faith in him shaking like a fragile structure in a storm.
That night, Zara sat quietly in her room, exhausted.
The confession had drained her, but it had also brought strange relief. She had carried the secret for so long, and now it no longer weighed on her alone. Aisha sat beside her, eyes wide with admiration.
Zara, you were so brave.
The whole town heard your voice today. They know now you are not afraid of your brother.
Zara shook her head sadly. Don't mistake my fearlessness, Aisha. I was terrified.
But Abu's words would have haunted me forever if I stayed silent. I only pray Allah forgives him, and us.
Meanwhile, Aram's fury boiled hotter than ever.
In his study, he tore open drawers, searching frantically for the hidden documents. They must never find them, he muttered. If anyone sees those papers, it's over. Everything will collapse. He burned candlelight late into the night, shredding old ledgers, scattering ashes into the garden. But one small wooden box, locked and hidden at the back of a shelf, remained untouched. It contained the truth, the agreements, the name of the wronged family, the proof of his father's guilt. And unknown to him, another pair of eyes had seen where he hid it. Harun, who had quietly stood by during Aram's madness, was beginning to waver. The days that followed were filled with tension. The community demanded answers, but Aram dodged questions, offering excuses. Zara, meanwhile, found growing support. Some women came to her door, quietly offering food and words of comfort. A few men approached Imam Saeed, urging him to investigate further. But Aram was not ready to surrender. He whispered poison into ears, spreading rumors about Zara's character, claiming she had met strangers in secret, accusing her of dishonoring her father's memory. Some people believed him. Others didn't. The town was divided, torn between loyalty to Aram and respect for Zara's courage. One evening, as Zara walked to fetch water from the well, two women blocked her path. Their eyes were cold, their voices sharp. "You shame your family, girl," one spat. "Speaking against your own brother, against your own blood?"
Have you no fear of Allah?
Zara's heart ached, but she lifted her chin.
I fear Allah more than I fear my brother. That is why I spoke.
The women muttered curses and walked away, leaving her trembling but unbroken. When she returned home, Aisha held her hand.
The more they push you, the stronger you must stand. Do not let them break you, Zara.
Meanwhile, Harun sat alone in his small courtyard, troubled. He remembered the wild look in Aram's eyes, the threats, the lies. He had been Aram's friend for years, but loyalty to a friend weighed differently than loyalty to the truth. Finally, unable to bear the burden, he visited Imam Saeed in secret. Imam Sahib, Harun whispered, glancing nervously around.
There is something you must know. Aram, he hides something. In his study, there is a wooden box.
I saw him guarding it like his life depended on it.
Whatever proof you need, it is in there. Imam Saeed listened intently, his brow furrowed. Harun, what you are saying is dangerous. If you are wrong.
I am not wrong, Harun cut him off.
I know what I saw.
The Imam placed a hand on his shoulder. Then, Harun Beta, perhaps Allah has chosen you as the witness. The time for truth has come. That night, Zara sat awake, staring at the moonlight streaming through her window. Her heart was heavy with uncertainty. She had spoken her father's confession, but proof was still missing. Without it, Aram could continue his lies. She whispered a prayer, her hands trembling.
Ya Allah, if I have done right, guide me further. If I have done wrong, forgive me.
But please, reveal the truth. Little did she know, the answer to her prayer was already moving into place. The next day, Imam Saeed called a closed gathering of elders. He spoke quietly but firmly.
Aram's sister has spoken her truth.
But words must be weighed against evidence.
If there is indeed a hidden record, then we must see it. Some elders nodded in agreement. Others hesitated, fearing the shame it might bring upon the Malik family.
But the Imam's voice carried conviction.
Justice is not served by silence. If wealth was built on dishonesty, then Allah Himself demands we restore it.
And so, under the cover of night, a small group prepared to enter Aram's house, not to steal, but to seek the truth that had been buried too long. Inside the house, Aram slept uneasily, tossing and turning, his dreams filled with shadows chasing him. But in his study, the wooden box sat silently, its lock rusted but strong, its secrets waiting to be unleashed. Zara, lying awake in her room, felt a strange chill, as though the house itself knew that something was about to change forever. And when the elders finally placed their hands on the box, ready to break it open, the air in the room thickened with anticipation. What they found inside would either destroy Zara's words, or prove them beyond question. The wooden box sat on the old mahogany desk in Aram's study, its dark surface scratched with age, its rusty lock defying the nervous hands that hovered over it. The elders stood in a tight circle around the desk, their faces tense in the dim lantern light. The smell of dust and ink filled the air.
Imam Saeed placed a steady hand on the box.
His voice was low but commanding.
Brothers, what we do here tonight is not for gossip, nor for shame.
It is for justice. If there is truth hidden inside this chest, it belongs not to secrecy but to the light. Harun shifted uneasily, his eyes darting toward the door.
If Aram finds us here, then he will answer, another elder interrupted sternly. He has had every chance to clear his name. If he is innocent, these papers will prove it. And if he is guilty, then no lock can protect him from Allah's judgment.
With a nod from the Imam, two men forced the lock open with a metal rod. The sound of snapping metal echoed like a gunshot through the silent house. The box creaked open. Inside lay a bundle of old papers, tied together with fraying string.
Dust puffed into the air as Imam Saeed carefully lifted them out.
His wrinkled hands trembled as he unfolded the top sheet, eyes scanning the faded ink.
Gasps filled the room.
It was all there: contracts, business agreements, proof of the debt owed to Malik Sahib's late partner.
Numbers scrawled in Malik Sahib's own handwriting.
And at the bottom, in clear black ink, Aram's signature acknowledging he knew of the debt, promising repayment.
Yet no repayment had ever been made.
The Imam's face darkened.
Astigfirullah, the girl spoke truth. This wealth is stained with injustice. But before they could take another step, the heavy door of the study slammed open. Aram stood in the doorway, his eyes wild, his chest heaving. The lantern light threw shadows across his furious face. "What are you doing in my house?" he roared, his voice cracking with rage. The elders froze, caught red-handed. Harun stepped back instinctively, guilt written all over him. Aram's eyes darted to the open box, to the papers in Imam Saeed's hands. For a split second, his face drained of color. Then his fury doubled. "You had no right," he shouted, his voice trembling. "Thieves! All of you! Spying, breaking into my home, how dare you?" Imam Saeed, calm even in the storm, held up the papers. "We dared because truth demanded it, Aram. And here it is. Proof, in your father's own hand and in yours. Proof that your wealth was built on money that never belonged to you." Aram lunged forward, snatching at the papers, but two elders blocked his way. His face twisted with desperation. "Give it back. You have no idea what you're doing." But it was too late. The secret was out. The next morning, the news spread like wildfire. From the tea houses to the fields, from whispered conversations in the bazaar to loud debates in the mosque courtyard, everyone spoke of the discovery. Papers were found. Aram knew the truth all along. The girl was right, she was right. For every person who doubted Zara before, 10 more now believed her. She had not only defended her share of the inheritance, she had uncovered a legacy of dishonesty that weighed on the entire family name. Zara herself heard the news when Aisha burst into her room, breathless and glowing with excitement. They opened the box, she cried, grabbing Zara's hands. The elders saw it all, the signatures, the contracts. Aram can deny it all he wants, but the truth is written in ink. The whole town knows now. Zara sat down heavily, her knees weak. Relief washed over her, but it was tangled with sorrow. "So it's done," she whispered. "Abu's secret is no longer mine alone. The whole world carries it now." Aisha knelt beside her. "You saved his honor, Zara. If Abu confessed to you, it was because he trusted your strength. Now his soul can rest lighter." Tears slipped down Zara's cheeks. But what of Aram? He will not surrender quietly. And she was right. Aram's world collapsed in a single day. The community that once respected him now eyed him with disgust. Former friends avoided him in the street. Shopkeepers greeted him with cold silence. Even Sajid, his most loyal supporter, kept his distance, muttering about bad omens and Allah's punishment. Aram stormed through the marketplace, his fists clenched, his teeth grinding. Everywhere he went, he heard whispers. "That's the man who cheated." His sister stood braver than him. A son who shamed his father's memory. The words pierced him like knives. He returned home and locked himself in his study, pacing furiously, muttering to himself. "They think they've won. They think a few papers can destroy me. But I'll show them. I'll show her." His eyes burned with hatred, and his mind spun with dark plans. That night, the elders gathered again, this time openly in the mosque. The papers were laid out on a low wooden table for all to see. The Imam addressed the community. "We have read the words of Malik Sahib himself. We cannot change what was done in the past, but we can correct what is before us now. The wealth must be divided justly. The debt owed to the partner's family must be repaid. And Zara Beatty, as her father's daughter, must receive what is rightfully hers." The hall filled with murmurs of approval. Heads nodded. Justice, at last, was being spoken aloud. But Aram, standing at the edge of the crowd, his face shadowed, clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. "No," he whispered to himself. "No, I will not bow to her. Not to them. Not ever." Later that evening, Zara was returning from the mosque when she heard footsteps behind her. The narrow lane was dimly lit by a flickering lantern. Her heart quickened as she glanced back. "Aram!" He stepped out of the shadows, his face twisted in a grim smile. So, you've made yourself a hero, haven't you? Everyone sings your praises now. Brave Zara, the honest daughter, the savior of father's honor. Zara swallowed hard, but she stood firm. I only spoke the truth, Aram. Abu wanted me to lead this family.
Aram cut her off, his voice rising.
He gave me the responsibility. And you, a woman, dared to challenge me? You humiliated me before everyone. His voice cracked, equal parts rage and despair. He stepped closer, his breath hot with fury. Do you think they will respect you for long? No, Zara. They will tire of your courage, but my shame will last forever. And for that, I will never forgive you.
For the first time, Zara saw not just anger in his eyes, but something darker, hatred, deep and consuming. She stepped back slowly, her voice shaking but resolute.
Aram, you are not my enemy. Your pride is. Let it go before it destroys you. But he only laughed bitterly, the sound echoing in the empty lane. It's too late for that. Then he turned sharply and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Zara trembling with fear. That night, Zara could not sleep.
Her mind replayed his words, the venom in his tone. She prayed long into the night, begging for protection, for strength, for her brother's heart to soften. But in the darkness of his own room, Aram whispered to himself, over and over, like a vow. If she has taken my honor, then I will take hers. The storm had not ended. It had only begun. The morning sun rose pale and heavy, casting a dull light over the Malik household. But inside the house, shadows stretched deeper than ever. Zara awoke from a restless night, her body weary, her heart uneasy. The words Aram hissed in the dark lane echoed in her ears like a curse. If she has taken my honor, then I will take hers. She tried to steady her trembling hands with prayer, but a strange heaviness lingered. Something was coming, something she could not yet name. Meanwhile, Aram sat slouched in his study, his head buried in his hands. For days, humiliation had eaten away at him. Wherever he went, whispers followed. Once proud neighbors now crossed the street to avoid his gaze. The betrayal stung deeper because it wasn't from strangers, it was from his own blood. He clenched his jaw, whispering to himself, they all believe her. A woman. They trust her over me. Sajid entered cautiously, carrying tea. Aram, you need to calm yourself. The elders won't reverse their decision. The documents spoke for themselves. Better to give Zara her share quietly, Anne. Quietly? Aram barked, slamming his fist on the desk, making Sajid flinch. Do you know what quietly means, Sajid? It means admitting defeat. It means letting her walk over me in front of the whole town. I'd rather die. Sajid set the cup down, his voice uneasy. Then what do you plan to do? Aram leaned back, his eyes dark, his voice cold. If they think Zara is pure, I'll show them she is not. If they see her as a symbol of truth, I'll drag her name through mud so thick no one will look at her again. Sajid froze, horrified. Aram, she's your sister. She stopped being my sister, Aram growled, the day she betrayed me. Zara tried to carry on with dignity. She spent her days with Aisha, helping her aunt with chores, offering lessons to neighborhood children, avoiding confrontation. But every time she stepped outside, she felt the weight of eyes on her. Some were admiring, others suspicious, a few openly hostile. One afternoon at the well, a group of women stood whispering loudly enough for her to hear. Clever girl, isn't she? One said, bitterness in her tone. Waited until her father died, then spun a tale to snatch property. Another chuckled cruelly. What honesty! She's just greedy. Mark my words, soon the elders will regret listening to her. Zara's chest ached, but she held her head high and walked past. Aisha squeezed her hand. Ignore them. Their poison cannot change truth. But deep inside, Zara knew the whispers were not random. Someone was feeding them. Someone was sowing doubt deliberately. That evening, as the town gathered for prayers, the whispers became louder.
Men stood in tight clusters, frowning, nodding. Words like dishonor and shameless floated through the air.
When Zara entered the mosque courtyard with Aisha, she felt the shift immediately.
Eyes that once regarded her with sympathy now narrowed with suspicion. Imam Saeed approached her gently after the prayer. His face was grave. "Bedi, troubling rumors are spreading. Some say you have been meeting strangers at night. That your father never told you anything, that you fabricated the story to cover your own sins." Zara's heart dropped.
"That's a lie," she gasped, her voice breaking.
"I have done nothing dishonorable."
"I believe you," Imam Saeed said firmly. "But words are dangerous when planted by bitter hearts.
You must be ready to defend yourself again." Zara nodded weakly, tears brimming in her eyes. She didn't need to ask who was behind it. Back at home, Aram smirked as Sajid returned from the bazaar.
"It's working," Sajid reported reluctantly.
"People are beginning to doubt her. They ask, why would a father confide in a daughter instead of a son?
They say a woman cannot be trusted with such matters.
Some even think she made up the entire deathbed story to gain sympathy." Aram's eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. "Good. Let them choke on their doubt.
Soon, no one will remember the papers, only the shame attached to her name."
But Harun, who sat quietly in the corner, shifted uneasily. He had seen the papers. He knew Zara spoke truth.
And though he had once been Aram's loyal ally, he now felt sick watching his friend sink deeper into cruelty. That night, Harun whispered a prayer under his breath.
"Ya Allah, guide me. Do I remain silent and let injustice win? Or do I stand, even if it costs me everything?" Days passed, and the pressure on Zara mounted. She heard laughter behind her back, mocking words whispered too loudly to ignore. Once friendly neighbors now crossed the street to avoid her, echoing Aram's humiliation but in reverse.
Finally, one evening, she returned home to find her Aunt Khadija waiting, her face flushed with anger.
"Zara!" Khadija snapped. "What is this filth I hear? That you meet strange men in secret? That you twisted your father's last words for your own gain?" Zara's breath caught, her eyes wide. "Fapo, you know me better than this. I have done no such thing. It is Aram, he spreads these lies because he cannot face the truth." But Khadija shook her head, her disappointment cutting like a blade. "Whether true or false, tongues wag because of you. And what matters in this world, child, is not always truth but honor. If your name is tainted, your truth will not save you."
The words pierced Zara's heart. Alone in her room later, she cried silently, clutching her father's old scarf.
"Abu, you gave me this burden. But it is breaking me. How much longer can I carry it?"
Meanwhile, the elders grew restless. The papers were undeniable, yet the rumors clouded everything. Some argued that justice had already been served, that Zara should receive her share. Others hesitated, saying a woman's word was fragile when her reputation was questioned. Imam Saeed fought for her fiercely. "Truth is truth, whether spoken by a man or a woman. Do not let Aram's poison corrupt your judgment." But even his voice struggled against the tide of suspicion.
Then came the breaking point.
One morning, as Zara went to fetch milk, she found a crowd gathered near her doorstep. On the wall of her house, someone had scrawled crude words in black paint.
"Dishonorable. Liar. Greedy."
Her breath caught, her heart shattering. Neighbors watched silently, some with pity, others with cruel smirks.
Aisha rushed out, her face pale. "Zara, who would do this?" But Zara didn't need to ask. She knew.
Later that day, she confronted Aram in the courtyard, her eyes blazing through tears.
"You have gone too far, Aram. Spread rumors if you must, but to defile our father's home with such filth, have you no shame left?"
Aram only smirked, his tone mocking.
"Shame? You took mine. Now I've taken yours. Fair, isn't it?" Zara's voice cracked. "You are not fighting me anymore, Aram. You are fighting the truth. And you will lose.
For a moment, something flickered in his eyes: doubt, fear, guilt. But he buried it quickly under layers of pride. "Wait and see, sister," he hissed. "This is only the beginning." That night, Zara sat in the darkness of her room, her spirit heavy. But as the wind rattled the windows, she remembered her father's trembling voice: "One day you may have to speak it." Her tears dried, replaced by a fire in her chest. She whispered into the silence, "If my brother wishes to destroy me, let him try. I will not bow. I will not break. Abu trusted me, and I will not fail him." Outside, the moon hung cold and distant, as if watching the storm build below. And somewhere in the shadows, Aram whispered his vow again, darker than before. "If she won't bend, then I'll break her." The town awoke to heavy clouds that morning. A restless wind swept dust through the narrow streets, rattling doors and carrying whispers like dry leaves. It was as though the skies themselves sensed the storm about to erupt in the Malik household. Zara stood before the mirror, adjusting her scarf with trembling hands. Her face looked pale, but her eyes, though red from nights of weeping, burned with a fierce determination. Her father's voice echoed within her: "One day you may have to speak it." That day had come. The night before, when she confronted Aram, his venomous vow had left her sleepless. She realized that silence was no longer protection, it was a weapon in Aram's hands. As long as she remained quiet, he would keep twisting her silence into guilt. She turned to Aisha at dawn, whispering, "I cannot hide anymore. If the town will condemn me, let them do so after hearing the truth from my lips, not from Aram's poison." Aisha squeezed her hand, fear and pride mingling in her eyes. "Then I will stand with you. But be prepared, Zara. People do not always want truth, they want comfort, and lies often comfort them more." Zara nodded slowly. "Then let my words unsettle them. At least they will know I did not bow." By mid-morning, the courtyard of the elders filled again. The tension was thicker than the humid air. Men gathered in clusters, muttering about honor, inheritance, and shame. Women peered from windows, waiting for another spectacle. Imam Said, weary but firm, called the assembly to order. "Today we must settle this unrest. For weeks, poison has spread through our streets. Let us hear once more, clearly, before Allah, and decide with justice." Aram arrived dressed in pristine white, his beard neatly oiled, his face a mask of wounded dignity. Behind him, Sajid and Khadija whispered encouragement. He looked like a man wronged, a brother betrayed. And then came Zara, head held high, her step steady despite the storm raging inside. Aisha walked beside her, their bond unspoken but unbreakable. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some sympathetic, others sharp with suspicion. Aram was the first to speak. "My father raised me as his heir," he declared, his voice thick with feigned grief. "He taught me to uphold our family's honor. Yet this sister of mine, this woman, claims he entrusted her with secrets and papers, while leaving me in ignorance. Does that sound like justice? Does that sound like truth?" He turned dramatically to the elders. "I ask you, respected ones, would any father bypass his son to confide in a daughter? Or is this nothing but a greedy invention?" The crowd murmured in agreement. Doubt hung heavy. Zara stepped forward, her voice clear though her chest ached. "Our father confided in me because he feared exactly this, your pride, Aram. He feared you would treat inheritance as a throne, not a trust. He gave me the truth because he knew you would twist it." Gasps rippled through the assembly. Aram's face darkened. She continued, her voice rising, "Yes, I am a woman. Yes, I was his daughter. But was I not by his side in his final hours, when you were absent? Did I not wipe his brow, hear his last prayers, hold his hand when he whispered his final wish? If Allah willed that his words fell to my ears, who are you to deny them?" The courtyard grew silent. Some lowered their eyes, shame stirring in them. Others exchanged uneasy glances. But Aram smirked, stepping closer. "Beautiful speech, sister. But words are wind. And what of the rumors? What of the whispers of your late-night meetings? The stains already on your name? Can truth live in a house of dishonor?" The words cut like daggers.
Murmurs rose again.
Women at the windows shook their heads, men muttered darkly.
Zara's throat tightened.
For a moment, she faltered. The weight of slander pressed against her chest, threatening to crush her. But then, Harun, who had been silent all these weeks, stepped forward from the crowd. His voice shook, but he spoke.
Enough, Aram. I have stayed quiet too long.
The crowd turned, startled.
Aram's eyes widened in shock.
Harun's face was pale, but his voice grew stronger with each word.
I was there when Zara presented the documents.
I saw the signature, the seal, your father's hand.
It was real.
I knew then she spoke truth. Yet I remained silent because you were my friend, Aram.
But I cannot watch you destroy her anymore. Gasps erupted.
The elders leaned forward, their expressions hardening.
Imam Saeed's eyes glistened with relief.
Aram's face twisted with fury.
Traitor, he spat. You dare betray me for her?
Harun's voice cracked, but he did not back down. I dare because justice matters more than friendship. The courtyard exploded with voices, some defending Zara, others demanding proof, others cursing Aram's cruelty.
The once quiet town now boiled with chaos.
In the midst of it, Imam Saeed raised his hands.
Silence. Silence before Allah.
The noise died, though tension still crackled in the air.
He turned to Aram. Your lies have been exposed. If you have honor left, you will repent. Aram's chest heaved, rage burning in his eyes.
His world was collapsing, his pride shredded, his allies wavering. For the first time, he felt cornered. But instead of retreating, he lashed out. Pointing a trembling finger at Zara, he roared, if she takes my inheritance, then let her also take the curse that comes with it. I swear before all of you, I will destroy her, even if it costs me my life. The crowd gasped.
Women cried out. Imam Saeed's face darkened with grief.
Zara stood frozen, her heart pounding, but her eyes locked on her brother's. For the first time, she saw not just arrogance but madness that would stop at nothing.
The assembly dissolved into chaos. Some rushed to calm Aram, others to shield Zara.
Rumors now spread faster than wildfire of curses, betrayal, broken honor. As Zara was led away by Aisha and Harun, her steps faltered. Her voice was barely a whisper.
He will not stop now. He will destroy everything.
The clouds above broke, and the first drops of rain fell, heavy, cold, unrelenting. It was as though the heavens themselves wept for what was coming. And deep inside, Zara knew, this was only the beginning of a war that would tear their family apart. The rain did not stop that night. It lashed against rooftops, seeped into courtyards, and flooded the narrow alleys of the town. The storm outside mirrored the storm raging within the Malik family. Zara sat by the dim glow of a lantern in Aisha's room, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Water dripped from her scarf onto the rug, but she hardly noticed. Her mind replayed Aram's vow again and again, I will destroy her, even if it costs me my life. Aisha placed a warm shawl over her shoulders. Don't let his words break you, Zara. He is drowning, and in his drowning, he wishes to drag you down with him.
But Zara's eyes brimmed with tears. What if he succeeds, Aisha? He has already turned so many against me. What if tomorrow, I walk through the market and no one looks me in the eye again? What if I am left alone? Aisha knelt beside her, holding her hands. Alone? Never. You have me. And now, you even have Harun. Did you not see the courage it took for him to speak today? Allah does not abandon the truthful.
Zara swallowed hard, nodding, but her heart was heavy.
Meanwhile, Aram paced in his darkened study. The lantern flame flickered wildly as if it feared his fury. Sajid sat quietly, watching, his face pale.
You saw them, Aram muttered, his voice low and trembling with rage.
You saw how they looked at me.
As though I was the liar. As though she was the victim.
Sajid tried to steady him. But Aram, perhaps it is time to. Don't you dare say it.
Aram barked, his eyes bloodshot.
do not tell me to surrender. Do not tell me to hand over my father's land to that girl who defied me.
I will not give her a single inch.
Sajid fell silent.
Aram's fists clenched. His breath came in heavy bursts. Then, suddenly, his voice dropped to a chilling whisper.
If papers and words cannot defeat her, then I must use other means. Sajid's eyes widened. What do you mean? But Aram gave no answer.
He only stared at the storm outside, his mind plotting, his soul sinking deeper into darkness. The next morning, the storm had cleared, but the town felt unsettled. The streets were muddy, the air heavy with tension.
Whispers spread like wildfire. Did you hear? Aram cursed his own sister before everyone. Harun turned against him. This family's shame will swallow us all.
At the marketplace, Zara walked with Aisha, her steps slow, cautious. People stared openly, some with pity, others with judgment. A few even muttered curses under their breath. Suddenly, an older woman blocked her path. It was Khadija, her aunt, her face twisted with rage.
You dare show your face here, Zara? Khadija spat. Do you not have shame?
You humiliated your brother in front of the entire town.
Zara's lips trembled, but she kept her voice calm. I spoke truth. If truth humiliates him, is that my fault? Khadija's eyes flashed. Truth? Or greed? I raised you like my own child, and this is how you repay us? By tearing the family apart? A hush fell over the market. All eyes turned to them. Zara felt her cheeks burn. Before she could answer, Aisha stepped forward. Fappo, enough. Do not forget, it was Zara who stayed by her father in his dying hours, not Aram. If she speaks truth, it is because she was trusted. Stop spitting venom at her. But Khadija only scoffed. You defend her because you are childless and alone. What do you know of family honor? The words cut deep. Aisha flinched but held her ground. She placed an arm around Zara and led her away, whispering, "Do not answer her. Her anger is Aram's shadow." That night, Harun visited Zara's home quietly. His face was tense, his eyes restless. I had to come, he said. I fear Aram will not stop at words anymore. His pride is wounded, and wounded pride is dangerous. Zara looked at him, her voice heavy. I know. But what can I do, Harun? If I fight, they call me shameless. If I stay silent, they say I am guilty. Harun's jaw tightened. Then you must protect yourself. And I will help you. Zara's eyes widened with surprise. Why? Why risk yourself for me? You were Aram's friend once. Harun hesitated, then spoke softly. Because I saw your father's papers with my own eyes. Because I stayed silent when I should have spoken. And because, he stopped, struggling for words. Because justice demands it. And my heart will not let me rest until I make it right. Zara's breath caught. She could not reply. But in that moment, a fragile bond began to grow between them, born not of romance but of shared truth and courage. But while Zara found a glimmer of hope, Aram was weaving darker plans. Late one night, he met with two men in the back of a tea house. They were rough, with scarred faces and greedy eyes. I need her silenced, Aram said coldly. Not killed, but ruined. Do you understand? A single scandal, something that will make the town spit at her name forever. The men exchanged wicked grins. That can be arranged. But it will cost you. Aram's lips curled into a cruel smile. Whatever it takes. Days later, the trap was set. Zara was returning from the madrasa, where she had been teaching children verses from the Quran, when she felt unease in the narrow alley leading home. The street was strangely empty. The air felt thick. Suddenly, shadows emerged, two men blocking her path. Their smiles were twisted, their intentions foul. Peace be upon you, Bibi, one sneered mockingly. Out alone at this hour? Zara's heart pounded. Move aside, she said firmly, clutching her scarf tighter. But they stepped closer, hemming her in. "Oh, don't be afraid. We only want to talk. Or, perhaps the town will soon talk about you." Her breath caught. She understood immediately.
This was no accident. This was Aram's doing. Before they could corner her, a voice thundered from behind.
"Leave her." It was Haroun. He had followed at a distance, suspecting danger.
With fists clenched, he rushed forward, striking one man hard across the jaw.
The alley erupted into chaos, shouts, scuffling, blows exchanged. Zara pressed against the wall, trembling, watching as Haroun fought fiercely against both men. He took heavy punches but did not back down.
Finally, bruised and panting, he drove them off.
They fled, cursing, their threats echoing into the night.
Haroun turned to Zara, his face bloodied but his eyes burning.
"Are you hurt?" Zara shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No, because of you."
He nodded, then staggered slightly, exhaustion overtaking him.
Zara caught his arm. "Come. Let me tend to your wounds."
That night, as she cleaned his injuries by lamplight, silence filled the room.
Their eyes met briefly, speaking volumes words could not. Finally, Haroun whispered, "Now you know." "He will stop at nothing." Zara's hands trembled. "Then it is war. My own brother has declared war against me."
Haroun's gaze was steady.
"And you are not alone in it." But even as hope flickered, fear coiled in her chest. If Aram could go this far already, what darker path would he choose next?
And across town, Aram sat in his study, unaware of the failure.
He sipped tea calmly, convinced his plan had succeeded.
In his mind, he pictured Zara cornered, her honor shredded, her name in ruins. A cruel smile spread across his lips. But that smile would not last long. For soon, he would learn that his own shadow had begun to betray him and the walls around him were slowly closing in. The dawn broke with a pale sky, streaked with faint red clouds as if warning of blood to come. The town stirred awake, but whispers moved faster than the call of the rooster. Word spread quickly that Zara had been ambushed in a narrow alley the night before, though some whispered the story differently, twisting it into scandal. By mid-morning, people gathered in clusters at the bazaar, voices hushed but sharp.
"Did you hear?"
She was seen with a man, fighting in the dark. Her brother was right, no woman walks alone at night without shame following her.
"But I heard Haroun saved her." Or was he the reason she was there at all? Rumors slithered like snakes, each twisting truth into poison. Inside Aisha's house, Zara sat silently by the window, her face pale.
The bandages on Haroun's arm were still fresh from the fight. He sat nearby, his eyes filled with worry.
"You should not leave alone again," Haroun said softly. "He will try again, maybe worse next time." Zara's lips trembled.
"It is not just danger, Haroun.
It is shame. They already speak as if I am guilty. Every step I take is twisted into filth." Aisha entered with tea, her voice stern yet gentle. "Then you must decide, Zara. Will you let their tongues chain you, or will you rise above them?
Your father gave you this trust. If you let fear silence you, Aram wins."
Zara nodded faintly, but the weight on her chest did not ease. Meanwhile, Aram sat in his courtyard, smug and satisfied.
He had heard the rumors spreading like wildfire. He leaned back, sipping tea, confident his sister's name was now tainted beyond repair.
Sajid approached hesitantly. "It seems people are talking, Aram. They say Zara was caught in an alley with Haroun.
Some believe they were together by choice."
Aram smirked. "Good. Let them think it.
Once her honor is questioned, the papers and Imam Saeed's words will mean nothing.
She'll be ruined."
But Khadija frowned deeply.
"You may silence her, Aram, but at what cost? If her name is destroyed, so too is yours.
She carries our father's blood, her dishonor is ours."
Aram's face darkened. "No.
Her dishonor will be hers alone.
I will make sure of it." The following Friday, the mosque courtyard was crowded.
The town had gathered, their eyes restless, their hearts hungry for answers. Imam Said stood before them, his face solemn. "There is unrest in our town," he began, his voice firm. "Rumors of ambushes, whispers of shame, a family torn apart. I ask you all, will we let lies divide us, or will we seek truth?" Zara stepped forward, her heart pounding. The crowd hushed instantly. "I was attacked," she said, her voice trembling but strong. "Two men cornered me in the alley. Their intent was not honor, it was to break me. But Harun came, and he fought them off. If not for him, I would not be standing here." Gasps rippled through the people. Some looked shocked, others skeptical. She continued, tears brimming in her eyes. "And I know this, they did not come on their own. They were sent. My own brother sent them." The courtyard erupted. Shouts filled the air, some in disbelief, others in outrage. Aram shot to his feet, his face red with fury. "Lies. She defames me because she has no proof. She speaks poison to cover her shame." All eyes turned to Harun, who stepped forward slowly, his bruises still visible. "I fought those men," Harun said, his voice low but steady. "And when they fled, they cursed Aram's name as their master. I kept silent before, but not now. He sent them." The courtyard fell into stunned silence. Aram's face drained of color, his composure cracking. "You dare," he spat at Harun. "You traitor! You twist my loyalty into betrayal." But Imam Said raised a hand, his voice thunderous. "Aram Malik, is this true? Did you send men to destroy your sister's name?" Aram's chest heaved. Pride warred with fear. His lips trembled, but he refused to admit defeat. "She deserves it," he shouted suddenly, his voice wild. "She stole my father from me, my inheritance, my honor. What I did for justice." Gasps turned to outrage. The elders rose to their feet, faces hard with disgust. Mothers covered their children's ears from his madness. Aram's mask had finally slipped. But the crowd did not move to punish him. Fear still clung to their bones. He was powerful, wealthy, a man not easily cast down. Sensing this hesitation, Aram straightened, his voice cold. "Believe her if you wish. Believe Harun. But know this, as long as I live, I will never let Zara enjoy a single day of peace on that land. She can take the papers, she can take the judgment of elders, but I will burn it all before I bow to her." His words hung like smoke in the courtyard. Zara's heart pounded. For the first time, she saw clearly, her brother was not just angry, he was consumed. And there was no reasoning left in him. That night, Zara prayed long and hard, tears soaking her prayer mat. "Ya Allah," she whispered, "I did not ask for this burden. But you placed it in my hands. Give me the strength to carry it. Give me the courage to face him." When she rose, her eyes were no longer heavy with fear. They burned with resolve. She turned to Aisha and Harun. "Tomorrow, I will go to the district magistrate. I will take my father's papers and seek the law's protection. If Aram will not honor truth, then let the law force him." Aisha nodded firmly. "Yes, child. It is time." Harun's gaze lingered on her, heavy with admiration and concern. "But know this, Zara, once you take this step, there will be no turning back. Aram will see it as war." Zara's lips curved into a bitter smile. "It already is." But across town, Aram sat in his darkened room, his hand trembling as he poured wine into a cup. His pride was wounded, his secrets exposed. The respect he once commanded was now ashes. He lifted the cup, his voice hoarse, his words slurred with rage. "If she drags me to the law, then so be it. Let her win in court. But before that victory comes, I will make sure she loses everything else." He slammed the cup down, wine spilling like blood across the table. His eyes burned with a vow darker than any he had made before. The storm was far from over. Zara had decided to take the fight beyond the whispers of the town. Aram, cornered and desperate, was prepared to scorch the earth rather than surrender. And somewhere in between stood Harun, torn between loyalty and love for justice, knowing that the next move could shatter them all. The morning air was heavy with dust as Zara, wrapped in a simple shawl, walked steadily toward the district magistrate's office. Beside her walked Harun, his injured arm tucked close to his chest. Aisha followed behind, her prayer beads clutched tightly in her hand. Each step felt heavier than stone, but Zara's eyes remained fixed ahead. Her father's sealed papers rested in her satchel, the weight of his will pressing against her side like a living thing. The bazaar was alive with chatter as they passed. Some sneered, others whispered, some even lowered their gazes in shame for what they had believed about her. Yet Zara did not falter. Harun leaned close. Every eye is watching, Zara. Once you go through those doors, you cannot return as just another villager. You will be the woman who dragged her brother before the law. Zara's lips trembled, but her voice was firm. Then let me be that woman. If I must carry this burden, I will carry it standing. Inside the magistrate's chamber, the air smelled of ink and old paper. Magistrate Rahim, a stern man with a long beard, adjusted his spectacles as Zara laid the papers before him. "These are my father's words," she said, her voice steady. "He named me the rightful heir to his land. But my brother has stolen it, threatened me, and even sent men to destroy me. I seek justice." Rahim studied her, then the papers, then Harun's bandaged arm. His brow furrowed. "These are serious accusations, child. Do you have witnesses?" Harun stepped forward. "I fought the men myself. They cursed Aram's name as they fled. And the Imam himself heard Aram confess before the town." Rahim leaned back, his fingers steepled. "If this is true, Aram will face not just loss of land, but imprisonment." Zara's heart pounded. She had spoken the truth, but hearing it in the magistrate's stern voice made it real. Rahim stamped the papers. "I will summon Aram Malik. The law will decide." But word traveled faster than any official summons. By the time Zara returned home, Aram already knew. In his courtyard, he smashed a clay jug against the wall, the shards scattering like his broken pride. His men stood nervously by, afraid to approach him. Khadija tried to calm him, but he shoved her hand away. "She drags my name to the magistrate like I am some thief." Aram roared. "My own sister, turning strangers against me. This is betrayal worse than death." Sajid spoke cautiously. "If the law takes your side, you will lose everything. The land, the respect, even your freedom." Aram's eyes blazed. "Then let the land burn before it belongs to her. If prison awaits me, I will not go alone. I will drag her down with me." His voice shook the walls, and in that moment, even Khadija saw it. Aram was no longer a man protecting his pride. He was a man preparing to destroy everything, even himself. That night, as the town slept, Aram's men moved like shadows. They crept to the edges of the Malik lands, pouring oil along the boundary. Torches glowed in the dark, ready to ignite. But one boy, no older than 12, saw them. He ran breathless to Aisha's house, banging on the door. "Zara Baji! They're going to burn the fields. I saw them with fire." Zara froze. The land her father had bled for, the harvests that fed dozens of families, Aram meant to reduce it all to ash. Harun grabbed his shawl. "We must stop them before it's too late." The night sky glowed faintly with orange light as they ran. Smoke curled upward, bitter and thick. By the time they reached the fields, small flames already licked at the dry wheat. "Bring water!" Harun shouted, rallying the nearby farmers who had woken at the smell of smoke. Buckets, cloths, even bare hands worked to beat down the fire. Zara coughed, her eyes burning, as she tried to stamp out sparks with her feet. Aisha dragged water from the well, her old arms trembling but relentless. Through the smoke, Harun spotted movement, shadows fleeing toward the village. He chased, his fury boiling, but his wounds slowed him. The men vanished into the night. By dawn, the fire was finally beaten, but a section of the field lay blackened, ruined. The air reeked of loss. Zara sank to her knees, tears streaming down her face.
He would rather starve us all than see me inherit.
Harun placed a hand on her shoulder.
Then this is no longer just a matter of inheritance. It is war. The next day, the magistrate's men arrived at Aram's house with the summons. Aram greeted them with icy calm. "I will appear," he said, his voice steady, though his eyes burned with hidden rage. "But do not think a court can chain me. The law may strip me of land, but it cannot strip me of blood. She is still my sister. And I will decide what that means."
As the officers left, Sajid whispered urgently, "Aram, stop this before it is too late."
"You have already gone too far." But Aram's silence was colder than any reply.
At the hearing, the courtroom was packed.
Villagers crowded the benches, some to see justice, others to see spectacle.
Zara stood before the magistrate, her hands trembling but her spine straight.
Harun and Aisha flanked her like shields. Aram entered last, his robes immaculate, his face composed into false dignity. He walked as though he still owned the earth. The proceedings began. Papers were read, witnesses called, voices rose and fell.
Harun testified, Imam Said confirmed what he had heard, and the boy who had seen the fire pointed directly at Aram's men.
For once, truth stood taller than lies. Rahim's gavel struck the desk. "This court finds Zara Malik the rightful heir to her father's land. Aram Malik is hereby stripped of all claim.
Furthermore, the attempted burning of the fields will be investigated for criminal charges."
Gasps filled the room. Zara's knees almost buckled, relief washing over her like cool water.
But Aram did not flinch. His face was a mask of stone. Only his eyes betrayed the storm inside.
As the magistrate adjourned, Aram leaned close to Zara as they passed.
His whisper was venom.
"You may have won the land. But you will not keep it. I will see you buried beneath it." Zara's blood ran cold. She realized then that the verdict had not ended the war. It had only lit the fuse. That night, Zara could not sleep. Every sound outside her window felt like a footstep. Every flicker of the lamp seemed a warning.
She clutched her father's papers to her chest, whispering prayers.
But somewhere in the darkness, Aram was already planning his next move. And this time, he would not come with fire. He would come with blood. The days following the court ruling were heavy with unease.
On the surface, peace seemed restored as Zara walked the fields, speaking with farmers who now worked under her name, and villagers greeted her with newfound respect.
Yet behind every smile lingered whispers, would Aram truly accept defeat? Or was he merely waiting in silence? Zara tried to hold her head high, but at night she lay awake, listening for footsteps. Every creak of wood, every bark of a dog made her heart pound. The memory of Aram's words haunted her, "You may have won the land, but you will not keep it." Aisha, ever watchful, noticed the shadows beneath Zara's eyes. "You cannot live like this, child," she whispered one evening. "Fear eats the soul faster than fire eats wheat. Pray, yes, but also be ready. Aram's silence is not surrender. It is the sharpening of a knife."
Aram, meanwhile, had retreated into his house like a wounded lion.
Khadija watched him pace the courtyard at night, muttering to himself.
The once proud master of land now stared at walls as though they mocked him.
Sajid tried reason. "Aram Bai, the land is gone. Accept it. Start again. You still have a roof, a family, dignity." "Dignity?" Aram snarled, eyes flashing. "Do you not see? They laugh at me in the streets.
The magistrate stripped me like a beggar. My sister parades through the fields like a queen while I rot.
Is this dignity?"
His voice cracked with rage and something deeper, desperation. He slammed his fist into the wall until blood stained his knuckles. Khadija wept quietly in a corner, knowing her husband's pride was eating him alive, but powerless to stop it. That night, Aram gathered his most loyal men, those who still saw him as master, not fallen heir. In the dark, he swore an oath. "She has taken everything. But I will take from her what no court can protect. If she wants to play heir, let her bleed on the threshold of the house she stole." His men exchanged uneasy glances, but no one dared defy him.
The first strike came suddenly. A calf belonging to Zara's herd was found dead, its throat slit in the night.
The villagers whispered but dared not speak aloud what they all suspected. Then tools went missing from the sheds. Wheat sacks were torn open and spoiled. At first, Zara bore it with silence. "If I react, I give him power," she told Harun. But Harun shook his head. "Zara, this is no longer about land. He is testing how far he can go. If you do nothing, one day it will not be cattle or sacks. It will be you." One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, Zara stood outside her home, gazing at the fields her father had left. The air was still, unnaturally so. Aisha called from inside, "Zara, come eat, child." But before Zara could reply, movement caught her eye. Shadows near the wall. A flicker of steel. Her breath caught. "Harun," she shouted, but too late. 3 men burst from the darkness, blades flashing. Harun, who had been sitting by the doorway, sprang up with a cry, intercepting the first attacker. Steel clashed, grunts filled the air. Zara stumbled backward, heart-hammering, as Aisha screamed from inside. One man lunged toward Zara, knife raised. She froze until instinct took over. Snatching a clay pot from the ground, she smashed it against his arm. The blade clattered, and he cursed, grabbing her scarf. "Let her go!" Harun roared, driving his shoulder into the man, sending them both sprawling. Pain ripped through his healing wound, but he fought like a man possessed. The third assailant darted toward Aisha at the door, but the old woman swung her heavy walking stick with surprising strength. It cracked against his ribs, buying just enough time for neighbors, roused by the noise, to rush in with lanterns. The attackers fled into the night, leaving only the echo of their threats. Zara collapsed against the doorway, trembling violently. Her scarf was torn, her hands cut, but she was alive. Harun's face was pale with pain, his wound reopened and bleeding. Aisha clutched her beads, whispering prayers through tears. Neighbors gathered, murmuring with outrage. "This is too far. She cannot live like this." Harun, his chest heaving, looked into Zara's eyes. This was not just a warning. This was meant to end you. And in his heart, Zara knew whose hand had guided those men. Aram. The next morning, Zara marched to Imam Said, her voice hoarse but resolute. "No more whispers. No more patience. He has tried to kill me. If I must fight my own blood to survive, then let it be known I will." The Imam's eyes filled with sorrow. "Child, the path you walk now has no return. Blood will answer blood." Zara's voice broke, but her will did not. "Then let it. I will not kneel while he destroys me." Meanwhile, in his house, Aram sat silently, his men shaken by the failure. One dared to speak, "We nearly killed her, but the neighbors." Aram's eyes snapped up, cold as winter. "Nearly is not enough. Do you think I fear law, or curses, or Allah himself? She has made me an animal. Then I will be an animal." His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "Next time, there will be no escape." That night, as Zara lay awake, she felt it in her bones, the storm had only begun. And somewhere in the darkness, Aram sharpened his rage into a blade meant for her very soul. The morning after the attack, the entire town buzzed with whispers. Men in the tea stalls spoke in hushed tones, women at the well exchanged worried glances. The question lingered in every corner: would Aram dare strike his sister again? Zara, her scarf torn and hands bandaged, walked through the bazaar with Aisha at her side. Every step was a statement she would not hide, not even after being targeted in her own home. Some villagers greeted her with quiet respect, others avoided her eyes, still bound by old loyalties to Aram. Harun followed close, his arm bound tightly beneath his tunic. His wound burned, but he ignored it. He would not let Zara walk alone into danger again. Yet even as they tried to appear strong, the tension was unbearable. They all knew, if Aram had sent men once, he would send them again. That afternoon, Zara stood before Imam Said in the mosque courtyard. Villagers had gathered, drawn by the fire in her voice. My brother has turned his hand against me, she declared, her voice echoing against the stone walls. He has stolen, lied, and now sought my blood. If justice is to be more than words, then let it be seen today. Will the town stand silent as he destroys his own sister? Or will truth finally rise above fear? Gasps rippled through the crowd.
Never had a woman spoken so boldly in public, defying shame and custom alike. Some elders frowned, muttering that she was inviting chaos. But others, especially the younger men and women, nodded, stirred by her courage. Imam Saeed raised his hands for silence. His face was grave. Zara speaks truth. Blood has been drawn. This feud cannot remain in shadows any longer. If Aram does not repent, then the matter must pass from our hands to the law once more. For Allah forbids injustice, even between kin. The crowd murmured. Some hearts shifted toward Zara, others hardened in resistance. When word reached Aram, he laughed bitterly. Sitting in his dimly lit room, he muttered, "So now she parades herself as a saint in the mosque? My sister, preaching against me before the whole town?" Sajid, pale with fear, urged him, "Aram Bhai, enough. Already the law has judged you. If you push further, you will lose everything, even your freedom." But Aram's eyes blazed with madness. "Do you not see? It is already lost. My honor, my land, my name, all stolen by her hands. What is left for me but vengeance? If I cannot live as master, then let me live as terror. Let the whole town tremble when they hear my name." His men shifted uneasily, loyalty battling with fear. Yet none dared abandon him. Days later, a shocking act shook the village. At dawn, smoke rose again, this time from Harun's small hut near the edge of the fields. Flames devoured the straw roof, black smoke curling into the sky. Harun staggered out, coughing, his arm bleeding anew as he tried to drag out his few possessions. The fire consumed everything. Zara rushed to the scene with neighbors, tears streaming down her face as she helped douse the flames. But by the time the fire was beaten back, nothing remained but charred ruins. Harun sank to the ground, his face hollow. "He is not only after you, Zara. Now he comes for anyone who stands with you." Zara clenched her fists, fury boiling through her grief. "Then he has declared war not only on me, but on every soul who dares choose truth." That evening, Aisha confronted Zara privately. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. "Child, listen to me. Your brother has lost his mind. He will not stop until one of you is in the grave. And if that day comes, it will shatter this family forever." Zara's lips quivered. "What choice do I have? If I bow, he wins. If I fight, he hunts me. There is no peace left." Aisha placed trembling hands on Zara's face. "Then at least promise me this, do not let his hatred turn your heart to stone. Fight for truth, yes, but do not lose yourself to vengeance." Zara closed her eyes, tears falling silently. "I will try, Amma." Meanwhile, Aram sat with his most trusted men, plotting his next strike. His voice was low, venomous. "She thinks the magistrate protects her. She thinks the people will save her. But she forgets fear is stronger than paper, and blood speaks louder than any law." One of his men hesitated. "Aram Bhai, if you spill more blood, the law will take you surely. The magistrate will not stay silent again." Aram's eyes gleamed with madness. "Then let him try. Before his men arrive, she will already be gone." The night that followed was eerily still. The moon hung low, casting pale light over the village. Zara lay restless, listening for every sound. Aisha dozed lightly in the next room, prayer beads still clutched in her hand. Suddenly, a sharp knock rattled the door. Zara froze. Harun's voice called urgently, "Zara! Open quickly, it's me." She hurried to the door, relief flooding her chest until the wood splintered. Harun stumbled inside, blood streaking his face, gasping for breath. They came for me," he choked, before collapsing at her feet. Zara screamed, falling to her knees. His shirt was torn, crimson spreading across his chest. Aisha rushed in, her cries piercing the night. Ya Allah, no! Zara's hands shook as she pressed against the wound, tears blinding her. Stay with me, Harun. Please.
But as Harun's eyes fluttered, a shadow moved outside the broken door. And in the pale moonlight, Zara saw him, Aram, standing in the courtyard, watching silently. His face was calm, almost serene, but his eyes burned with fire. The night was split open by screams and the smell of blood. Zara knelt on the floor, her hands pressed desperately against Harun's wound, her tears streaking down her face. His breath came ragged, his lips whispering fragments of prayers. Aisha hovered beside them, her frail body trembling, her voice breaking as she recited Ayat al-Kursi over and over. And through the shattered doorway, Aram stood in the courtyard. The moon carved his figure into a dark silhouette, his eyes gleaming like coals in a dying fire. He did not speak. He did not move. He simply watched. Zara's heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel his gaze like knives piercing her soul. Her lips trembled, but her voice came out steady, burning with fury. Aram! Have you fallen so far that you come to watch the life drain from those who defend me? Is this what our father taught you? For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. Then, Aram stepped forward, his voice low and chilling. Our father taught me honor. You stole it from me. Now you watch as I take from you everything you hold dear. Tonight, it is Harun. Tomorrow, it will be you. Zara's tears turned to fire. You may kill us, Aram, but you will never bury the truth. Even if I die, the whole village knows who you are now. Aram's jaw clenched, his eyes flickering with the madness of a man trapped between pride and ruin. He took another step closer until shouts erupted down the lane. Villagers with lanterns rushed toward the commotion, drawn by Zara's cries. Aram's figure stiffened. For a moment, his mask of control slipped, revealing the rage boiling beneath. Without another word, he turned and melted into the shadows, leaving only silence behind. Harun groaned, blood soaking his tunic. Zara and the neighbors carried him inside, laying him on the charpoy. The village healer, an old man with trembling hands, rushed in. He pressed cloths to the wound, muttering prayers as he worked. Zara sat by Harun's side, gripping his hand. Stay with me, Harun. Please, you cannot leave me now. His eyes fluttered open, his voice weak. Zara, do not bow to him. No matter what, he cannot take your soul. Her heart cracked hearing his words. She pressed his hand to her forehead, sobbing. I swear it. I will not bow. The healer glanced at her, his face grave. He has lost much blood. If he survives till dawn, Allah willing, he may live. But if not, he stopped, unwilling to finish. Zara felt the weight of despair sink into her chest. She prayed through the night, her lips dry, her heart burning. Meanwhile, Aram returned to his house like a man possessed. His robes were torn, his hands still streaked with blood that was not his own. Khadija gasped when she saw him, but he brushed past her, his face a storm. Did you kill him? She whispered, horrified. Aram's voice was hollow. Not yet. But I will. Sajid, trembling, tried to reason. Aram Bai, the villagers saw you there. They will not stay silent this time. The magistrate will act. Aram whirled on him, eyes blazing. Let him. Let them all come. Do you think I care for their laws anymore? I am beyond their chains. If they want to drag me to the gallows, I will take her life before they reach me. Even his own men flinched at the venom in his tone. In that moment, Aram was no longer a brother, no longer a man, he was a storm with only one purpose, destruction. Dawn broke with a thin veil of mist over the fields. The village woke to the news, Harun had been struck down, and Aram himself had been seen at Zara's home. Some villagers, hearts hardened by tradition, muttered that this feud was shameful but inevitable. Others, stirred by the injustice, began to rally around Zara. At the mosque courtyard, Imam Sayyid spoke with heavy sorrow. This cannot go on. If blood continues to flow, it will curse this land for generations.
Aram must be stopped not by vengeance, but by justice. Whispers spread. Some offered to guard Zara's house at night. Others brought food and water, showing quiet solidarity. For the first time, Zara felt the tide turning in her favor, but she also knew it meant Aram would strike harder.
Inside her home, Zara sat by Harun, who drifted between sleep and painful wakefulness. His face was pale, but when his eyes opened, he searched for hers. "You should send me away," he whispered. "If I stay, he will keep hunting me." Zara shook her head fiercely. "No. He will not drive you from your home. You stood for me when no one else dared. I will not abandon you now." Tears slipped from Harun's eyes. "Then promise me, if he comes again, you will run. Do not stay to fight him alone." Zara kissed his forehead, her voice breaking. "I promise nothing, Harun. I will not run from him. Not anymore." That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Zara stepped into the fields alone. The wheat swayed softly in the breeze, the air carrying the scent of ash from Harun's burned hut. She stood still, lifting her face to the sky. "Ya Allah," she whispered, "give me strength. Not for myself, but for those who suffer because of me. Do not let me fall before his hatred." But even as she prayed, a shiver ran down her spine. She felt eyes upon her. Turning, she caught a glimpse of movement at the far edge of the field, a dark figure watching. Her breath caught. Aram. For a moment, their eyes met across the distance. Then he raised his hand, drawing his thumb slowly across his throat in a silent promise. Zara's heart pounded, but she did not look away. She stood tall, even as fear rippled through her veins. And when Aram disappeared into the shadows, she knew, the next time he came, it would not be with threats. It would be to finish what he had begun. That night, Zara gathered Aisha and Harun close. "We must be ready. He will not stop. Tomorrow may bring peace or it may bring death. But I will not hide anymore." Her words lingered in the dim room, heavy and final. Outside, the wind howled through the village, rattling doors and carrying the scent of rain. Somewhere in the darkness, Aram sharpened his blade. And in the silence between breaths, Zara knew the threshold of death was no longer far. It was at her very door. The morning sky was heavy with clouds, the kind that pressed down on the earth and suffocated the air. Zara stepped out into the courtyard, her dupatta pulled tightly around her shoulders. Every sound, the creak of a cart, the cry of a child, the clatter of metal, made her tense. She felt as though the entire village was holding its breath, waiting for the storm that Aram had promised. Inside, Harun lay weak but alive. His color had returned slightly, though the wound throbbed with pain whenever he tried to move. Aisha never left his side, her old hands stroking his hair, her lips muttering prayers as if her breath alone could keep him tethered to life. Zara could not rest. Each night she sat awake, clutching a kitchen knife, her ears straining for the sound of footsteps. Every time the wind rattled the door, her heart leapt, fearing it was Aram. But the strangest thing was not Aram's silence. It was the whispers of the villagers. They began to visit, bringing food, lending kind words. Old Hamid brought firewood. Safiya, who once avoided Zara, came with milk. Even the imam stopped by, his eyes heavy with sympathy. "Daughter," he said, "you must not face him alone. Evil grows stronger when good people stay silent. We will not let him destroy you." Zara's throat tightened. She had lived so long under Aram's shadow that she had forgotten what it felt like to be seen, to be believed. Yet in the back of her mind, fear gnawed. If Aram saw the village uniting behind her, his fury would know no bounds. In Aram's Haveli, the storm was already breaking. He paced the veranda like a caged lion, his jaw tight, his eyes bloodshot. Khadija sat in the corner, her face pale with dread. "Aram," she whispered, "the people are talking. They say you have become a tyrant. Even the imam has spoken against you. If you do not stop." "Silence!" Aram roared, slamming his fist against the wooden pillar. "They will not dare raise a hand against me. I am the heir. The land, the house, the name all belong to me.
Who are they to judge me?
Sajid, nervous as ever, tried to reason. They may not fight you with swords, but words are dangerous.
If they turn to the magistrate.
Aram spun on him, his face twisted with rage.
Then I will cut out their tongues before they can speak. Khadijah's eyes filled with tears.
She whispered so softly it was almost lost to the wind, "This madness will destroy you, Aram." For a moment, his face softened, the faintest crack in his mask.
But just as quickly, it hardened again. No.
This madness will save me.
And it will end her.
2 nights later, the rain finally came. Sheets of water lashed the earth, thunder growled across the sky. In Zara's house, the leaks dripped into clay pots, filling the air with the sound of water. Zara sat by the flickering lantern, her knife still clutched in her lap. Harun dozed fitfully, his wound aching with every clap of thunder. Aisha prayed in a low murmur, her frail body rocking with each word. The storm outside was merciless, but it was the silence within that unnerved Zara most.
She could not shake the feeling that something was coming. And then she heard it. A knock. Soft, deliberate.
Her blood turned to ice. Zara stood, her breath caught in her throat. She moved to the door, pressing her ear against the wood.
Again, the knock. 3 times. Slow. Certain. Her hands shook.
She whispered to Harun, "Stay quiet." Then, gripping her knife, she unlatched the door. It creaked open and there stood not Aram, but Khadijah. The woman was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her face, her eyes wide with desperation.
"Zara, please. Let me in."
Zara hesitated, suspicion burning in her chest.
"Why are you here?" Khadijah's voice cracked. "Because if you do not act tonight, you may not live to see the morning."
They gathered in the dim lantern light, Khadijah dripping rain onto the mud floor. Aisha gasped, clutching Harun's hand, while Zara stared hard at her sister-in-law.
"What do you mean?" Zara asked. Khadijah's lips trembled. "Aram has lost his mind. He has sworn to end you before dawn.
He has gathered men, armed men. They wait in the Haveli, sharpening blades. He says when the storm hides their steps, they will come for you."
Zara felt her chest tighten.
The knife in her hand seemed small, useless. Harun tried to sit up, groaning.
"I will fight." "No." Zara pressed him back down, her voice breaking. "You cannot even stand." Khadijah grabbed Zara's wrist, her eyes burning with urgency. "Listen to me. There is one way to stop him.
A secret he has kept hidden for years. If you reveal it, the village will turn against him completely.
He will have no power left." Zara's eyes narrowed. "What secret?"
Khadijah looked down, shame filling her face. "The land, the papers he claims make him heir, they are forged. He bribed the clerk after your father's death.
The will that disinherited you was a lie."
The room fell silent. Even the storm outside seemed to hold its breath.
Zara's heart pounded. "You are telling me, the land is mine?" Khadijah nodded, tears streaking her face. "Yes. You are the rightful heir. But if you do not reveal it now, Aram will kill you before you can speak."
Zara staggered back, the weight of the truth crashing over her. For years she had believed she was powerless, that her fate was sealed.
But all along, Aram's empire was built on a lie.
The decision clawed at her.
If she revealed the secret, Aram's name would be ruined forever.
But it would also spark his most violent rage yet. She looked at Khadijah.
"Why are you telling me this now?" Khadijah's voice broke. "Because I cannot watch him destroy us all.
He is not the man I married.
He is a monster.
If I stay silent, his sin becomes mine."
Zara's knife slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor.
She pressed her trembling palms to her face. The land, the house, the inheritance, it was hers.
Not stolen, not begged for, not gifted. Hers by right. But how could she wield that truth without inviting bloodshed? Harun's weak voice cut through the storm. Zara, this is your chance. Do not let him bury you in lies. If you do nothing, he will win. Zara lifted her head, fire igniting in her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of power shift into her hands. She whispered, almost to herself, he wanted to take everything from me. But now, everything is already his no longer. Khadija reached for her hand. If you mean to act, do it tomorrow. At the mosque courtyard. The people will gather after prayer. If you speak then, no one can silence you. Zara's heart pounded, her mind a storm of fear and resolve. Could she do it? Could she expose her brother before the entire village? Outside, thunder cracked, shaking the walls. Aisha flinched, clutching her chest. Harun shut his eyes in pain. And in that moment, Zara knew there was no turning back. The next morning, the rain eased, leaving the earth drenched and heavy. The mosque bell rang, calling the faithful to prayer. Zara wrapped her shawl tight, her heart racing with every step. Khadija walked beside her, her face pale but determined. Harun remained behind, too weak to move, but his whispered blessing clung to her ears. When they reached the courtyard, villagers had already gathered, murmuring in low voices. Imam Saeed stood at the front, his hands folded. Aram stood as well, his men behind him, their eyes sharp, their presence threatening. Aram's gaze locked onto Zara, his lips curling in a cruel smile. You dare come here, he muttered under his breath. But Zara did not flinch. She stepped forward, her voice carrying strong across the courtyard. I have something to say. And everyone here must hear it. The crowd hushed. All eyes turned to her. Aram's smile faltered. Zara lifted her chin, her voice ringing with truth. For years, I have lived under my brother's shadow. He claimed the land, the house, the inheritance as his. He said it was our father's will. But I tell you now, that will was a lie. Forged by his own hand. The true papers name me the heir. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Aram's face drained of color. He surged forward, his voice like thunder, lies. Do not listen to her. But Khadija stepped beside Zara, her voice trembling but clear. It is true. I saw him bribe the clerk. I stayed silent out of fear. But no longer. The inheritance was hers, not his. The courtyard erupted in whispers. Villagers who once bowed to Aram now looked at him with suspicion, even contempt. Aram's fury broke. He shoved through the crowd, his hand reaching for the dagger at his belt. His eyes burned with pure rage. If you think words will save you, Zara, you are a fool. Today, they will hear your last. And with a cry, he lunged straight toward her. The courtyard of the mosque exploded into chaos. Villagers gasped, some screamed, others froze in shock as Aram lunged forward, his dagger flashing in the morning light. Zara's heart seized, her body rigid with terror, but at the last instant, a hand caught Aram's wrist. It was Imam Saeed. The old man's grip trembled, but his eyes blazed with strength. Aram, he shouted, his voice ringing above the noise. In Allah's house, you dare raise a blade against your own blood? For a heartbeat, Aram's face twisted in rage, his muscles straining against the Imam's frail grip. Then with a vicious shove, he broke free, the dagger still glinting in his hand. Zara stumbled back, her breath ragged, her body pressed against the stone wall. Around her, men rushed forward to block Aram, forming a barrier between brother and sister. But Aram's fury was unchained now. Stand aside, he roared. She is a liar, a thief, a curse upon this family. She has poisoned you all against me. If she lives, none of you will have peace. The villagers hesitated, fear tugging at them. Aram was still the elder son, the man who had long commanded their respect, even if now, that respect was turning to fear. Zara, shaking, forced herself forward. Her voice broke, but carried, no, Aram. The curse is not me, it is the lies you built your life upon. You forged our father's will. You stole what was not yours. You turned your own sister into an enemy. And now you would spill blood in front of Allah's house.
The Imam stepped forward again, his voice stern.
Enough. If there is truth in her words, then the magistrate will decide.
You will not silence her with blood. But Aram's eyes were beyond reason. He lunged again, the dagger slashing only to be blocked by two villagers, who grappled with him desperately. The blade nicked one man's arm, drawing blood, but together they forced him back.
Gasps and shouts filled the air.
Mothers pulled their children away, men circled closer, some reaching for sticks and tools as weapons. The tide was shifting. Aram, breathing hard, his hair falling wild across his face, looked around at the crowd. For the first time, he saw not loyalty in their eyes, but doubt, even hatred. His hand shook on the dagger. His voice cracked with rage.
You think you can stand against me? I am Aram Khan. This land is mine. You would betray me for a woman? Zara's voice rang out, steady as steel, not a woman. A sister. A daughter of this soil. The rightful heir of my father.
The words landed like a stone in the stillness after thunder.
And in that silence, Aram did something none expected. He dropped the dagger.
It clattered to the stones, the sound sharp, final.
For a moment, the crowd exhaled in relief. But Zara's heart did not ease.
She knew that when a storm broke, it was not always the end, it was often the beginning of the flood.
The magistrate was summoned.
By midday, news of the confrontation spread through the village like wildfire. Men whispered in tea stalls, women murmured in courtyards. Children repeated words they did not understand. The magistrate, a stern man with a trimmed beard and heavy eyes, arrived with two guards. He listened in the mosque courtyard as Zara and Khadija repeated their claims. The will was forged, the inheritance stolen. Aram stood rigid, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning holes into the ground.
Do you have proof of this claim? The magistrate asked. Zara swallowed, her palms slick. The clerk who wrote the papers, he was bribed. If he is questioned, the truth will come. Khadija added quickly, I was there.
I saw the exchange. I remained silent out of fear. But I will swear it on the Quran.
The magistrate's eyes narrowed. He turned to Aram. What say you? Aram lifted his head slowly. His voice was smooth, cold. They lie. Both of them.
One is bitter, the other disloyal.
You would trust a woman's word over a man's?
But this time, the words did not land as before. The villagers muttered angrily, some shaking their heads.
The tide of respect that once carried Aram had ebbed away. The magistrate held up a hand. Enough. I will investigate. Until then, no claim to the land shall be honored. The truth will come out.
He ordered the guards to seize the dagger Aram had dropped. Raise this blade again against your kin, and you will face the gallows, he warned. Aram said nothing, but his silence was more dangerous than his words. His eyes met Zara's across the courtyard, and in them she saw not defeat, but a promise. This was not over. That night, Zara returned home, her body weary but her spirit burning. She sat by Harun's side and told him what had happened. Harun smiled faintly, though pain etched his features. You spoke the truth before all.
That takes more courage than wielding any blade. Aram is cornered now. But Zara shook her head.
A cornered snake strikes hardest. Aisha touched her daughter's hand, her eyes shimmering with tears.
Allah is with you, child. Do not fear. Still, Zara could not sleep.
She sat awake long after the house fell silent, listening to the wind outside, waiting for footsteps that did not come. Across the village, Aram sat alone in his darkened haveli. The lamps were extinguished, the rooms hollow with silence. Even Khadija dared not speak to him. He stared at the dagger the guards had taken from him, now gone, leaving his hand empty. His empire of control had cracked in a single morning. But inside, his rage grew into something monstrous. If truth threatened him, then he would destroy truth itself. If witnesses spoke, then he would silence them. If the village turned against him, he would make them pay. And in his heart, only one thought remained: if Zara wanted war, then war she would have. The following day, the magistrate summoned the village clerk, an old man with a hunched back and nervous eyes. Under questioning, he stammered, his hands trembling. At last, his words spilled out: "Yes, yes, I changed the papers. He gave me money, and threatened me. I had no choice." The truth shattered what little defense Aram had left. Gasps filled the room. Zara felt tears sting her eyes, not of sorrow, but of vindication. But Aram did not flinch. His face was stone, his eyes burning. The magistrate turned to him. "For forgery, for deception, for raising a blade in the house of Allah, you will face judgment. Until the higher court decides, you are bound to remain under watch." Guards stepped closer. But before they could lay hands on him, Aram spoke in a voice like poisoned honey. "You think you can chain me? You think a few old words can strip me of my blood?" His lips curled into a smile that chilled the room. "No chains will hold me. And before this is over, you will all remember that Aram Khan does not fall quietly." That night, while the village slept, flames lit the darkness. Zara woke to the crackling sound, the acrid stench of smoke. She rushed to the window and gasped. One of the barns at the edge of the village was ablaze, fire devouring the dry thatch. Voices screamed in the night as men rushed with buckets of water, women cried out, children clung to their mothers. The fire raged, spreading fast. And in the shadows beyond the firelight, Zara thought she saw him. Aram. His figure watching, his face lit by the flames, his eyes glowing with madness. When she blinked, he was gone. But she knew. The dagger may have been taken from his hand, but the fire was now his weapon. The fire devoured the barn like a hungry beast. Flames leapt into the night sky, their glow painting the village red. The air was thick with smoke, the cries of men and women rising as buckets of water were thrown in desperate rhythm. Children sobbed, clinging to their mothers, while cattle bellowed in panic, straining against their ropes. Zara stood in the doorway of her house, her shawl clutched tight against the choking smoke. Her heart pounded with every scream, every crack of collapsing wood. She knew, without proof, without doubt, that this was Aram's doing. His dagger had been taken, his lies exposed, so he had chosen fire instead. Harun, weak but awake, called from his charpoy. "Zara, stay inside. Don't go near the flames." But she shook her head, her eyes fierce. "If I hide now, he will burn the whole village. Someone has to face him." Before Harun could protest, she ran into the storm of smoke and fire. The villagers fought desperately. Buckets of water formed a line, passed from hand to hand. The imam led prayers even as he threw water with his frail arms. Sparks flew, catching on dry roofs. Panic threatened to spread faster than the flames. Zara pushed through the crowd, coughing against the smoke. "Where is he?" she shouted to anyone who would listen. "Where is Aram?" Old Hamid pointed with a trembling hand. "There, at the edge of the field. I saw him. Watching like a devil." Zara turned her gaze, and for a moment, through the haze of heat and smoke, she saw him. Aram stood by the old neem tree, his figure dark, his arms folded, his face lit by the flames like a mask of vengeance. He did not move, did not help, did not speak. He only watched. Her blood ran cold. She pushed forward, her steps unsteady on the scorched ground. "Aram," she cried, her voice raw. "Enough! You've destroyed homes, lives, hearts, but you will not destroy this village too." He tilted his head, his smile faint, cruel. "Sister, you still don't understand. If the land cannot be mine, then let it all turn to ash. Better no one has it, than for you to stand above me." Her tears blurred with the smoke. "You are killing innocent people." "Innocent?" His laugh was hollow, echoing in the night. "They chose you over me. They turned against their rightful heir. Let them feel the price of betrayal." Villagers noticed him now, pointing, shouting. Anger surged among them. Several young men, emboldened, rushed toward Aram, but he slipped into the darkness of the trees before they could reach him. The fire raged for hours, but with unity, the village fought it back. By dawn, the barn was reduced to blackened ruins, but the flames had been stopped before they consumed more. Exhausted, covered in soot, the people gathered in the courtyard, their faces hollow with fear and fury.
The Imam, his voice hoarse, spoke, "This is no longer a feud between kin. This is a war of destruction. Aram has become a danger to us all." A silence fell. No one disagreed.
Zara stood trembling, her shawl blackened with ash. Inside, she felt both despair and defiance. Aram was no longer just her brother, he was a fire threatening to consume everything.
That same morning, the magistrate returned, his expression dark.
He had heard of the fire. His guards inspected the ruins, questioning villagers.
Many had seen Aram near the blaze. The magistrate's patience thinned. "If he defies the law again, I will order his arrest. Forgery is one crime. Attempted murder, another. But arson against his own people?"
He shook his head gravely.
"This cannot stand." Zara's chest tightened with both relief and fear.
"Be careful," she warned. "Cornering him only makes him strike harder."
The magistrate nodded. "Then perhaps it is time to strike first."
Back in his haveli, Aram sat in his darkened room, the scent of smoke still clinging to his clothes. Khadija wept quietly in the corner, begging him to stop, to see reason.
But Aram did not listen.
His eyes were wild, his hands trembling as though the fire had burned not just the barn, but something inside his soul.
Sajid entered nervously. The people are furious. They say you will be arrested. We must leave before they come."
Aram's gaze snapped toward him.
"Leave? This is my land. My blood. I will not run like a dog."
"But if they seize you," Sajid's words faltered under his glare. Aram stood, his body trembling with fury.
"Let them try. Let them all come.
I will show them what it means to challenge Aram Khan." He reached for the chest under his bed and pulled out an old, rusted rifle. His fingers caressed it like an old friend. "If fire does not break them, then blood will."
Khadija gasped, horrified. "No, Aram. You cannot."
But he silenced her with a look so cold it turned her heart to stone. 2 nights later, the village was quiet, but the quiet was uneasy. Men took turns keeping watch, fearing Aram's return. The children woke crying from nightmares of flames. Women clutched their shawls tighter, whispering prayers under their breath. Zara sat awake again, her knife in hand. Sleep had abandoned her since the fire. Every creak of wood, every rustle of wind made her heart leap. Suddenly, there was a sound. A sharp crack, unlike the wind or rain. Then another. Gunshots. Screams erupted outside. Zara rushed to the door, flinging it open. In the distance, near the edge of the village, sparks flared with each shot. Men shouted, chaos breaking again under the night sky. Her heart stopped. Aram had returned, with a rifle. Villagers scrambled for cover, some grabbing sticks, others stones, but none could match the weapon in Aram's hands. He fired into the air, his voice booming with madness. "Come out, all of you. You turned against me, now you will taste my wrath. This land is mine, mine to rule, mine to burn, mine to bleed." The crowd scattered, children wailing, women dragging them back into houses. Men tried to gather courage, but fear chained their feet. Zara's blood boiled. She could not watch her people fall prey again. She stepped into the lane, her shawl whipping in the wind, her voice cutting through the panic. "Aram! Stop this madness. You cannot silence truth with fire or bullets." His head snapped toward her, his eyes blazing, his rifle raised. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then, with a chilling calm, Aram leveled the barrel directly at his sister's chest. The barrel of the rifle gleamed in the faint moonlight. Zara could see her reflection in the dark hollow of its mouth, a reflection of fear, but also defiance. Her shawl trembled in the night wind, yet her feet stood firm on the dirt lane. The village had gone silent except for the distant sobs of children and the rustling of leaves. All eyes, hidden behind windows and doors, were fixed on the scene, on the sister standing unarmed, and the brother holding death in his hands.
"Move back, Zara," shouted one of the young men from behind a wall. But she did not move.
Aram's finger rested on the trigger, his eyes burning with madness and grief.
"Why do you always stand in my way? Why do you always steal what should be mine?"
His voice cracked like thunder, raw and broken. Zara's heart clenched.
"I never stole, Aram. Father's land was for both of us. You let greed blind you. You turned love into war."
His face twisted, torn between fury and pain.
"Lies. All lies. You poisoned everyone against me.
Even the villagers whisper behind my back, call me cursed, call me mad, because of you." Her tears glistened, but her voice stayed steady. "They whisper because you brought fire to their homes.
Because you forgot what it means to be family. Look around you, Aram, what are you now? A brother, or a tyrant?" For a second, his hand trembled.
For a second, the boy he once was flickered behind those eyes, the boy who once carried her on his shoulders, who once shielded her from storms. But then the rage swallowed him again, darker and sharper. "If you want to stop me," his voice sank to a chilling whisper,
"then you will have to die." He pulled the trigger. The blast shattered the night. Women screamed. Men ducked.
A cloud of smoke burst from the rifle's barrel. But in that instant, Harun Frail, wounded Harun, had stumbled out of the doorway of his house, his body lurching in front of Zara. The bullet struck him in the shoulder.
He collapsed with a cry of pain. "Harun!"
Zara screamed, falling to her knees beside him, pressing her hands against the wound as blood poured hot and dark between her fingers. The villagers gasped in horror.
Some cried out prayers, others shouted curses at Aram. The Imam himself emerged, his hands trembling but his voice loud. "Enough! You have crossed all limits. You raise your weapon against your own blood? Against your sister?" Aram staggered back, his chest heaving.
For a moment, even he looked shaken. His eyes darted to the blood pooling beneath Harun, to Zara's trembling hands. His lips parted, as though a fragment of guilt clawed at him, but then he clenched his teeth, hard, and shouted, "He stood in my way.
They all stand in my way."
The magistrate's guards, who had been patrolling near the edge of the village since the fire, rushed in at the sound of the gunshot.
With rifles of their own, they surrounded Aram. "Drop your weapon," one barked. But Aram only laughed, a hollow, broken laugh that echoed through the smoke-filled night.
He swung his rifle wildly, forcing the guards to duck for cover. Zara, her hands still pressing on Harun's wound, shouted desperately, "Stop him before more blood is spilled." Aram's eyes locked on hers, his voice ragged.
"You think they can cage me? I would rather die than bend to anyone."
He fired again, this time into the air, sending villagers screaming back into their homes. Then, with shocking swiftness, he darted into the fields, vanishing into the darkness before the guards could take aim. After him, the magistrate roared, arriving on horseback, his face pale with fury. "He will not escape this time." The guards gave chase, but the night swallowed Aram like a shadow. Hours later, dawn crept over the village, a pale and heavy dawn. The barn lay in ashes. The streets smelled of smoke and blood. And inside Zara's house, Harun lay on a charpoy, his shoulder bandaged, his face pale but alive. Zara sat beside him, her hands clasped in silent prayer. When he stirred, she leaned close. "You shouldn't have done it," she whispered, tears streaming. "You shouldn't have taken that bullet for me." Harun gave a faint smile, his voice weak. "I couldn't let him take you away." "Not you, Zara. The village needs you. I need you." Her heart ached at his words. She held his hand, her resolve hardening. The Imam entered quietly, his expression grave.
"Daughter, the time for patience is ending."
He has turned weapon against his own sister. If the law does not stop him, we must. Zara lifted her tear-streaked face.
"No. Not with vengeance.
I will stop him, not with fire, not with blood, but with truth. There is something he doesn't know,
something that will change everything.
The Imam's eyes widened.
What do you mean?
Her lips trembled, but she shook her head.
Not yet. When the time is right, I will reveal it. But until then, I will not let him destroy what is left of us.
Meanwhile, Aram stumbled through the forest, exhausted, his rifle heavy in his hands. His shoulder ached from the recoil, his lungs burned with smoke and rage. He fell against a tree, sliding down to the roots, his face buried in his hands. Khadija found him there, weeping silently, his voice hoarse with madness. They all hate me, my own sister stands against me.
Why? Why am I cursed?
Her eyes filled with tears. She knelt beside him, touching his arm gently.
You are not cursed, Aram. You are lost.
But if you keep going this way, there will be no return. He looked at her with wild eyes.
There is no return. Not for me.
He clutched the rifle tighter.
Only one path left. If I cannot have the land, then I will destroy everything tied to it. And if Zara stands in my way again.
His voice cracked, but he forced the words out, then I will end her myself. Khadija's sobs broke through the silence, but he rose, his shadow long against the pale morning light. Back in the village, whispers spread like wildfire. Mothers hushed their children. Men spoke in low, fearful voices.
Aram has lost his mind. He will come back.
We cannot live like this, one man holding all of us hostage. The magistrate, after failing to capture him in the fields, set guards to watch the village day and night.
But Zara knew her brother better.
He would not be stopped by walls or weapons.
He would return, not to steal, but to destroy.
She looked at the ashes of the barn, at Harun's pale face, at the terrified eyes of her neighbors.
And inside her, a storm rose. It was time. The secret she had carried for years, the one truth even Aram did not know, would have to be revealed. But would it save him, or destroy him completely? That night, the moon hung heavy and full.
Zara stood alone in the courtyard, her shawl wrapped tight, her eyes lifted to the sky. Her heart pounded with both fear and determination. For tomorrow, she would summon the entire village. She would call even the magistrate, even the imam, even Aram himself if he dared to come. And there, before every soul, she would speak the truth that had been hidden in shadows for far too long. A truth that would shatter everything they thought they knew about the inheritance, about the land, about who truly had the right to it. And when that truth came out, nothing would ever be the same again. The morning sun rose slowly, casting its first light over the bruised village. The barn lay in blackened ruins, smoke still whispering from its bones. Harun's moans carried faintly from Zara's home, where he lay bandaged and weak, though alive. Villagers gathered in clusters, their eyes tired, their voices hushed. They knew what day this was. Zara had sent word through every lane, every courtyard, come to the Imam's courtyard by noon. There is a truth I must speak, one that will end this war. The word spread like fire, stirring curiosity, fear, and hope all at once. Men whispered to each other as they leaned on charpoys. Women clutched their children close, their hearts torn between dread and anticipation. For days they had lived in terror of Aram's madness, of his rifle, his fire, his rage. But now, perhaps, there would be an end. Perhaps. Zara herself sat quietly in her home, preparing. She had not slept the entire night. Her eyes were swollen, her lips pale, but there was steel in her gaze. Harun, the weak, had insisted on sitting up, watching her silently. Zara, he whispered, breaking the heavy quiet. Are you sure? Once you speak, you cannot take it back. Her hands froze on the shawl she was folding. She looked at him, her heart heavy. This secret has burned inside me for years. I thought keeping it hidden was protection. I thought silence was peace. But now, look what silence has cost us. Blood. Fire. Madness. It must end, Harun. Even if it breaks me. He reached for her hand, his fingers trembling. Then let me be at your side when you speak. She nodded, though her heart ached at the thought of him struggling to walk. Still, his presence was strength she needed. By noon, the entire village had gathered in the Imam's courtyard. The walls were lined with men, women, and children, their eyes sharp with expectation. The Imam himself sat at the front, his white beard trembling as he prayed silently. Beside him, the magistrate stood with his guards, his stern face unreadable. The air was thick, every whisper echoing like thunder.
What will she say? Is she giving up the land? Will Aram come?
Then Zara appeared, her shawl white despite the soot that clung to everything else in the village. Harun walked beside her, leaning on a stick, his bandaged shoulder hidden beneath his kurta.
The crowd fell silent as they stepped forward.
Zara stood tall, her eyes sweeping over the faces of her people. Her voice, when it came, was steady, carrying across the courtyard.
You all know the fire. You all know the bullets.
You all know the man who was once my brother, but now stands as an enemy among us. But before you judge him fully, before you call for his blood, you must hear the truth. The truth my father tried to bury, the truth I have carried in silence.
Gasps rippled through the crowd. The Imam's brows furrowed. The magistrate leaned forward.
Zara's throat tightened, but she forced the words out.
Aram is not my father's son.
The courtyard exploded with noise.
Shouts, cries, disbelief.
Some clapped hands over their mouths, others turned to each other in shock. The Imam raised his hand for silence, his face pale.
Explain, child. Speak clearly.
Zara's tears glistened, but her voice did not falter. My mother, before she married my father, she was once betrothed to another. A man of wealth and power, but cruel in heart. When she fled from him, she carried his child in her womb. My father knew this, yet when he married her, he took that unborn child as his own.
That child was Aram.
The crowd gasped again, louder than before. Zara's voice trembled, but grew stronger with each word. Father raised him with love, never letting the world know.
Not even Aram knew.
Only my mother knew, and after her death, I learned the truth. Father begged me to keep it hidden, to protect Aram from shame.
And I did.
For years, I bore that secret, even as Aram turned against me. She paused, breathing hard, her chest tight. But now, you all must understand. The inheritance he fights for, the land he burns for, it was never his by blood. It was given to him only by Father's mercy.
And still, Father left him wealth enough to live with dignity.
But Aram's greed made him blind. He wanted more than what was his. He wanted what was never his at all. The courtyard erupted again, voices clashing in waves. Some cried, "Then he has no right to the land." Others murmured in pity. Children stared wide-eyed at their parents, confused. The Imam's eyes filled with sorrow. So this was the shadow that haunted your house all these years.
The magistrate's jaw tightened. If this is true, then Aram has not only broken law, but fought for a lie.
His crimes are doubled. Zara clasped her hands together, her voice breaking. I do not tell you this to shame him. I tell you this so you know the truth. Perhaps, if he hears it, he will finally see that all his war, all his destruction, has been for nothing. Her words hung heavy in the air, sinking into the hearts of those gathered.
And then,
a voice rose from the back of the courtyard. Cold.
Broken. You think lies will save you, sister?
The crowd turned.
Gasps filled the air.
Aram stood at the entrance, his clothes torn, his face streaked with soot and sweat. His eyes were wild, his rifle still in his hands. Behind him, Khadija wept silently, begging him to stop. The guards moved instantly, raising their weapons, but the magistrate lifted his hand.
Wait.
Aram walked forward, his boots heavy on the dirt, his gaze locked on Zara.
You think you can strip me of my blood with your tongue? You think words can erase who I am?
Zara's heart pounded. It is not my words, Aram.
It is the truth.
Our father loved you, but you were never his by blood. His face twisted with fury.
Lies.
His voice cracked the air.
You made this up to rob me of what is mine.
You want the land all to yourself, so you invent stories of mothers and pasts.
How dare you?
Zara's tears fell freely now.
Do you not see? Even if I wanted to lie, why would I carry this burden for so many years? Why would I keep it hidden until now?
Because I loved you, Aram.
Because I did not want to hurt you. But your madness left me no choice.
The crowd watched, breathless. The rifle in Aram's hands trembled.
His lips quivered, torn between disbelief and despair.
For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. The Imam stepped forward, his voice gentle but firm.
Aram, search your heart. Does it not make sense? The anger that always haunted you, the restlessness you could never tame, did you not feel, deep down, that you were different?
This is no curse.
This is the truth. Accept it, and you may still find peace.
But Aram shook his head violently, tears now streaking his face.
No, no. If I am not father's son, then who am I? A bastard? A shadow? Nothing?
Zara stepped closer, her hands trembling.
You are still my brother in the way that matters. Blood is not what made us family, love did.
But you killed that love with fire and bullets. You can still turn back, Aram.
Even now, you can still be saved.
The villagers murmured, some weeping, some praying. Aram's body shook, his rifle lowering an inch. For a heartbeat, it seemed he might drop it altogether.
His lips formed her name. Zara.
But then his eyes hardened again, fury surging over the doubt.
No. I will not be stripped like a dog before these people. If I cannot have honor, if I cannot have land, then I will have blood.
And with a scream of anguish, he raised the rifle again, this time, pointing not at Zara, but at the crowd itself. The villagers shrieked in terror. Mothers clutched their children. The guards raised their weapons in defense.
The courtyard had become a powder keg, and in the next second, it would explode.
The courtyard froze in terror as Aram lifted the rifle toward the crowd.
Mothers shielded their children.
Men stepped back, their courage wilting under the weight of the weapon. The Imam's lips moved in prayer, while the magistrate's guards tensed, their fingers near their triggers.
And in the center of it all, Zara stood tall.
She did not run, did not scream. She stepped forward, her voice ringing out above the chaos.
Aram! Her cry silenced the courtyard.
Even the birds on the rooftop stilled. She placed herself directly between the rifle and the villagers, her hands raised.
If you want blood, take mine. Do not harm them. They have done nothing to you. Your fight has always been with me.
The crowd gasped. Harun, weak but standing at the side with his stick, cried out in horror.
Zara, no. But she did not move.
Her shawl fluttered in the hot wind, her eyes locked on her brother's.
Aram's hands trembled on the rifle.
His teeth clenched. His voice cracked.
Why? Why do you always stand before me? Why do you always shame me?
Her tears fell freely now, but her voice stayed strong.
Because I am your sister. Because even now, when you burn and destroy, I cannot stop loving you. Shoot me, if it will end your anger.
But do not harm these people. Their only crime was trusting me.
End it with me.
The villagers murmured, shocked by her courage. Some wept, others bowed their heads.
Aram's chest heaved, his whole body shaking.
The rifle pointed at Zara's heart.
His finger quivered on the trigger. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then,
the Imam's voice broke through, steady and soft.
Aram, this is your final moment.
With one choice, you can either damn yourself forever, or begin to heal.
Will you spill the blood of the one person who still stands for you, even after all your crimes?
Aram's eyes darted from the Imam to Zara, from the rifle to the terrified villagers. His mind was a storm.
He saw his father's face, stern yet loving.
He saw his mother's gentle smile. He saw Zara as a child, chasing him in the fields, laughing with pure joy. And then he saw the fire, the ashes, the screams of the people he had terrorized. The madness that had consumed him. His hands trembled violently.
His lips quivered. "Zara," he whispered, his voice breaking. Her gaze never wavered. "I am here, brother. End it if you must. But know this, I forgive you." Those words shattered something inside him. The rifle slipped from his hands, clattering to the ground. His knees buckled, and he collapsed, his cries tearing from his throat like the wails of a broken child. "I am cursed," he sobbed, his fists pounding the dirt. "I destroyed everything. I destroyed myself." Zara rushed forward, kneeling beside him, wrapping her arms around his trembling frame. "No curse, Aram. Only choices. And you can still choose differently. This is the moment." The villagers watched, stunned, as the man who had terrified them wept like a boy in his sister's arms. The magistrate stepped forward, his face grave. "Aram Khan, by law, you must answer for your crimes: arson, forgery, attempted murder." His guards moved to seize him. Aram did not resist. His body sagged in defeat. His eyes, swollen with tears, lifted to Zara. "Do you still call me brother?" Her hand touched his cheek, tender despite all the pain. "Yes. Always. But now, you must walk the road of repentance." He bowed his head, silent, as the guards led him away. In the days that followed, the village slowly began to heal. The barn was rebuilt with the hands of many, not the wealth of one. Neighbors shared grain and tools, proving that unity could rise even from ashes. Children laughed again in the lanes, though their games often paused when someone whispered Aram's name. Harun, his wound healing, sat often by Zara's side, watching the horizon. "You saved us all," he said softly. "Not by fighting fire with fire, but by standing with love." She smiled faintly, her eyes weary yet peaceful. "Love is harder than war, Harun. But it is the only thing that heals." The Imam, in his Friday sermon, told the story of Aram and Zara, of inheritance turned to greed, of family torn apart, of secrets revealed, and of forgiveness in the face of rage. "Let this be a lesson," he said, his voice echoing in the mosque. "Greed blinds. Lies destroy. But truth, though painful, sets us free. And forgiveness can turn even a hardened heart toward light." The people wept, their heads bowed. Months later, Zara visited the prison where Aram was held. He sat behind iron bars, thinner, his beard grown, his eyes tired. Yet when he saw her, he rose, his lips trembling. "You came." She nodded, her shawl wrapped tight. "How could I not? You are still my brother." His eyes filled with tears. "I see now, all the land, all the wealth, it meant nothing. I destroyed my own honor chasing shadows." She reached through the bars, taking his hand. "Then rebuild, Aram. Not with fire, but with repentance. One day, when you walk free again, show the world the man you could have been." For the first time in years, he smiled, not with arrogance, not with cruelty, but with humility. "Perhaps," he whispered, "it is not too late." And as Zara left the prison that day, the sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light over the earth. She paused, breathing deep, her heart heavy yet hopeful. Her brother had fallen. Her family had been shattered. But from the ruins, something stronger had risen: truth, forgiveness, and a lesson that would echo through generations. For wealth can be stolen, land can be burned, but love and forgiveness, those are inheritances no fire can destroy.